All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Jorge's Isolation Podcast. Thank you, everybody who's been listening. Who's been listening so far? Man, I'm so excited about my guest today. It's got me tongue twisted and tongue tied. Everybody who's listened and shared, I've got a great response so far. And today I've got a really awesome guest. It's my friend Kyle Scatliffe. He is Broadway royalty at this point, I would say. You know what I mean? I mean, you've been killing it left and right since I've met you. But it's Kyle Scatliffe today. He was in Les Miserables. I think I said that right, or just Les Mis.
That's beautiful.
Um, he, the Color Purple. He was in the last show you were just in. We'll talk about that. To Kill a
hmm
Mockingbird, which was a very interesting
hmm
situation because it was right as the COVID pandemic really hit.
hmm
And before that, you were on the tour for Hamilton as Jefferson Lafayette. And here we are. Kyle,
hmm
thank you for joining me today.
Hey,
How's life?
thanks for having me. Oh, life's good. It's boring,
Oh,
as
man.
boring as it can be. Oh
Yeah.
man, it's odd. It's odd. I'm just happy to have my health. Really, just kind of like
Heck yeah.
I'm mostly at home, and Savannah's been babysitting. She finishes this weekend, so literally,
Oh,
Savannah's my fiance. For anyone that is listening,
yeah.
um, and so right now, as I do this, I'm basically a housewife at this moment, as people would say. I've been joking with people, calling myself the house hoe is what I've been
I've been a
calling
house hoe
myself.
forever these days. I'm a I'm a
uh,
I'm a I'm a trophy wife right now.
yeah. I'm doing that at this moment, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. It's pretty cool. I'm just kind of in a place now. I mean, it's been, my God, we stopped in March, so it's it's been a very long time. Wow,
Yeah.
it's been 8 months. So I'm starting to
Which was
hit that.
supposed to be only like 2 weeks.
Exactly. Like, they said it was 2 weeks, and all of
Yeah.
us were like, we just made a face at them, like, come on, we know it's not gonna be 2 weeks. Um, but we, at this moment, I'm just kind of getting that itch. You get that itch. You're
Man,
just
I've
like, oh,
had
I
it
haven't
since
acted.
before the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah, it's like I haven't acted in so long. My hands are doing this right now. Like I
Yeah.
haven't acted in so long, and like it's good because at this moment we're just like self tapes are basically all that's happening for television and film, and
Yeah.
it's nice to get them to like have some kind of practice or some kind of anything.
Yeah.
Um, I did have the privilege to do a reading over Zoom,
Really?
musical
Really?
reading too, and yeah, it was wild. We did a reading of this new musical that'll come out called New York, New York,
Hmm.
and it was pretty wild because it was 2 weeks, and we had to audio and video record everything so it could be presented
Yeah.
to producers and people that wanted to put money into it. So we had to do all of that at home ourselves. So like I had the
What?
setup, the self tape setup with the audio set up in my iPad using GarageBand. Like they would send us the
Yeah.
tracks, and then we would sing over the tracks and send them our audio file where it was just our singing,
Yeah.
and then they would like mix it and everything, and then we did all the scenes. I had this like set up in the living room for 2 weeks. just just me looking at everyone like shit, and looking at the dogs like, please don't make sound. Like it
Oh
was
yes,
crazy.
because you have dogs. Are they barkers?
They will bark if someone comes to the door, or
Hmm.
if they hear something that is out of the that comes from the outside of where they are, then they will bark.
Okay.
So if it's something coming from outside the apartment, or they hear another dog barking, they may do that.
Yeah.
Luckily, they're not like really heavy on the barking. They're very quiet. Like they're both asleep out there right now.
Oh, good. Bubba
So
was a
so it's
barker, man.
oh yeah.
Yeah, is a barker. Like man,
Is
him
yeah.
and his whole crew. He's with his family right now at my mom's house. Like him and his
Mm,
his his biological parents, mom and dad.
mm.
And he has his brother there, and then they have a step brother who we found, they rescued. And the
Aw.
stepbrother is the loudest barker. He's about 25 pounds, but he barks like a Great Dane. Just He's got a little deep voice, and man, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast if like Bubba was in the house. And
Yeah.
Bubba's with my mom because my daughter Anapao, she developed allergies when we
Oh.
moved. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
no.
because I mean, the first what year of her life, basically a year and a half, 6 months, she was with him, nothing, and
Right.
then we moved down here, and boom, she gets all splotchy and red. So
Oh no.
yeah, no,
Is it from the dog? Or
yeah,
is it from
yeah,
I'm
it is.
allergic to dogs too. I'm doing allergy shots right now.
Oh
Trying to
man,
get past
those
it.
help. They do.
Yeah, yeah. I got another shot to do tomorrow, and I think it's been like 5 weeks so far, maybe 4 weeks. I've lost count. It's just once a week.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm hoping that it'll help to an extent because of course we're gonna have dogs forever, regardless
yeah,
of if it's just the two dogs here
yeah.
or the dogs we have in the future. We're gonna have dogs. It's like Savannah's happiness to
Oh
have dogs.
yeah.
So it's like we will never not have dogs. So I'm like, you know what? Let me do this now. Get
Oh
it over
man,
with.
it'll help. I used to do those when I was in high school, and there's a lot of things that I
Mm,
used to have like allergic reactions to things, and they're not as bad. I mean, I still get
good.
allergies here and there, but it's not half as bad as what it used to be, because it
Oh,
used to be
good.
bad,
Yeah, because
bad.
I get like like hives a little bit,
Yes,
and I
I
get
don't get hives
itchy,
no
and I'm
more
just oh good, oh good to
anymore.
know.
No hives. That was the biggest
So
concern
exciting.
because I would get those nasty hives, and it was just
Hmm.
like I looked deformed, like I looked like a monster, like a universal monster. I was like Quasimodo. They kept me in a
Oh
tower.
no.
Yeah, and so the shots did help. I don't get hives like that anymore. I'll get
Oh
red
good.
marks, but not the hives.
Okay, good, good. Because I'm like I'm okay with like getting marks where it's like it feels like a mosquito bite or something. I'm like that's chill. But
Yeah,
then I'm like okay, now I have like bumps on my underarms or like
yeah.
every soft part of me is itchy, and you're like it's
I
awful.
think every part of me is soft. I'm a squeezable boy. so
Ah.
so was this recording that you did, was it a workshop, or is it just it was just a reading just to see how it sounded when you put everything together? Because that's very
Yeah,
interesting.
it was more reading. It was a reading because we didn't really like it was kind of the same as other readings would be where like they
Yeah.
changed the script here and there every day or something like smaller musically, but because of the time period we had, um, there wasn't a lot of time to really uh, do a lot of bigger changes
Yeah.
because the entire first week was us recording the audio of the show, also while learning how to record the
Oh
audio
geez.
of the show.
Yeah.
So it was like a really high um, a high stress week, both weeks really, because we definitely had to finish by the last Friday. So and we only worked on the week, so we just did 10 days. So the entire
Yeah.
first week we audio recorded the entire musical, and each person had to audio record the parts individually. So like if there was a group number, everyone audio recorded the part individually over the same backing track, and then would
Wow.
send the track into these guys who were called Super Awesome Friends. They were awesome. They were great. Their name is great for them.
Yeah.
And they would work with all the audio and mix it together in the video. And so the entire first week was just the audio. Just me standing in the closet with a microphone on my iPad, singing a song over and over again, and you know,
Hmm.
judging yourself as you're doing it and going,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to send that one. I'll send this. It just kept going for like a week of that, and then the entire next week was just us trying to video all of the scenes, but then we had to lip sync to our songs as well in order to create the video for the songs. So it was it was cool. It was great. It's also like understandable why SAG is having a fight.
Oh, it's a huge fight, and
Yeah,
that's going to
it's
be
a
a
huge
huge,
fight.
huge fight that they're
It's
going
gonna
to.
be huge.
It's going to get
Yeah, I
worse
don't.
before it gets
Oh, it
better.
is. Oh, it is. I after doing that, and then after seeing some other examples of other things that were being produced and made, I was like, this is not going to go well. I was like, I don't know how this is going to end, but it's I'm a proponent that and I've been saying this online too, where I'm like, I'm a proponent that I think SAG and equity should just merge
Yes.
and get it over with.
Can't we? I can join equity because I am SAG. You can
Yeah,
join it already. Like you do
yeah,
anything. Like it's already like that. So why don't they just join it? Like for those
yeah.
of the people that are listening right now, a lot of the you know my listeners and viewers, all like five of them, they aren't familiar with what's going on, and I'm vaguely familiar with what's going on because
Mm,
I mean I'm more of the TV film side. I don't do as much theater, but I do know
mm,
that with the pandemic, there's been a lot of these recordings.
mm-hmm,
And even like with Hamilton, they came out on Disney Plus and they're looking to do more stuff like that, right? Is that
mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
issue of how they're going to actually pay? Is that considered like a new media contract or is it going to be under equity? Like, is that the fight that's going on or?
Well, really, the recording of Hamilton happened. God, I think it was several months before, like maybe 2 months before Lynn and several others left the show. So like it was a long time ago when they recorded it.
Yeah.
I don't think their beef, SAG's beef with equity has more to do with that, or even like I think Diana is going to try to do the same thing. They're going to record the show and I guess sell it to Netflix. I think Netflix is the one that picked it up. It's
Hmm.
more the because of the fact that we are technically filming ourselves
Yeah.
to create the workshops.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a gray area that is apparently I had read the two letters that they'd sent to each other, but the gray area, it's like a gray area that SAG is definitely like it's definitely theirs.
Yeah.
And at times they would like be lax about it for equity to use it in the past, or they've agreed to let them use it. But right now we're in a place where because there's no work to be had on an actual stage, the
Hmm.
only work to be had is through our phones and through
Yeah.
audio recording things. And so it's I'd hate to say it is equity infringing on SAG, but it is.
Yeah.
Like it just
Yeah.
is. So
Technically.
there's technically it just is. So that's really the fight. I don't think the Hamilton stuff and all that stuff matters so much because I imagine all of that got worked through as it goes on Disney Plus and things like
Yeah.
that. You know, I imagine there's a structure in place for that. But when it comes to the way that we are going to produce new works at this moment,
Hmm.
and how we're basically also still people are getting paid to produce these works,
Yeah.
but they're getting paid to audio and video record as if we were making mini movies to show to
Mm,
producers
yeah.
to so like it's the same thing that we would normally do because I see what the argument is because it's the same thing we would normally do if we were in a room
Yeah.
with everybody anyway. It's
Yeah.
exactly what we would do. But and the producers would come and they would watch it, and then they would talk to the creative team about
Would you?
do it through a
Yeah.
different medium. It's that's where the fight is.
Yeah.
Um,
So is
yeah,
SAG seeing it like it's like a mini pilot because it
yeah.
is
I
on
think they're seeing
video
it like they're
and
movies.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh
because
wow.
it is like, and we're standing in front of blue screens or green screens. Like we're using the exact same setup we would for doing an actual self tape.
Hmm.
So, and self tapes are technically just mini scenes
Yeah.
that are technically movies that are recorded.
Yeah.
So so I get it. Um, I don't know how they resolve it. I don't
Man.
know. Really, they should just, like to me, putting all of the actors under one giant umbrella, and SAG
Yeah.
already has better healthcare than everyone else.
Man,
Like I'm
that
like,
even
if
got screwed. It's amazing healthcare, but they even pulled the rug from under us
yeah.
in the last month, man. Like
Oh really?
our
Oh,
oh
what they do?
man, our premiums. So for instance, in order to qualify for health insurance to begin with, you have to make a minimum over 4 quarters. So like over 4 quarters before, you would have to make 16,000. You can make like $0 on the first quarter, and then
Mm,
10,000 on the second, and then 6,000 on the third, and then on the fourth quarter, zero again, but that's 16K. You know what I mean? Then you
okay.
can
Yeah.
qualify for the next year. And then
Oh,
you
for
have
the
to
whole
pay for
year.
yeah.
Okay.
So it works,
Okay.
and you only pay quarterly. And with me and Anapao, because she's on it for only
Yeah.
$48 more.
Oh
It
my.
was
See,
for it's
that's the
beautiful,
thing.
and it
Ours is
was
like a grand a month.
see
It's like
that
so
yeah,
much more
exactly.
for dependents. Yeah.
And so now so it was like 348 every quarter, not bad at all. So in October, I think that changed to now my premiums shot up to 514 with her. Still under
Oh
a grand, but it's still
wow.
quarterly. And
That's still a
I
lot.
I can complain, but it's still cheaper than, what other people are paying monthly.
Yeah.
Relatively, if you compare it to like what people pay monthly. But they also made the minimum earnings to $26,000.
Oh
And
yeah. Nope.
they are counting the whole last 8 months.
What do you mean?
Basically,
Counting? Oh, they're
so
counting the whole last 8 months
yeah,
that
when
just
no one was
happened in
working
that.
at all. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's trash.
That's trash.
That's
So
trash.
how many people were
That's
actually
trash.
working during this pandemic? They were shut down
Like
for so long, and then they were
at
still
least for
waiting to
three
start
months,
up.
nothing was happening. Like nothing
Nothing.
was happening for at least 3 or 4 months, and then they were like, okay, maybe we could do all these bubbles,
Yeah.
and like that's good, but like you can't count
Yeah.
that.
No.
Oh, it's terrible.
And then I
Yeah.
think, if I'm not 100% sure, because it might be just for the retirement, um or I don't know if this is a thing that they're talking about, that the residuals aren't going to count toward that total
Oh,
for
they're
the
not.
fourth quarter.
Oh,
That's what they're
really?
talking about. But I think that's for retirement or for like people over 60 something. But even then, like a lot of
Okay.
their money that they've been getting, these are people who've been working for like 30 years. They count on these residuals. So it's kind of a weird situation. And then, there's the whole COVID situation where this popped up in my head for during the debates, actually. And I think it was
Mm,
between, was it Kamala and Pence, or it was either the presidential or the VP debates. But I think it was when Kamala said that, Pence and Trump want to count pre-existing conditions. So COVID would be considered a
mm,
pre-existing condition. Whoever wins, it doesn't matter. The health insurance companies will probably decide the pre-existing conditions. And would COVID be
mm-hmm.
held against all these people, no matter who wins? Like, how the insurance companies, they're scam artists.
Oh, they're scam
They're
artists,
scam
big
artists.
time,
And so, like, is
big
that
time.
going to be a thing? I know that tons and tons of people are getting COVID.
And
And
they have long haul COVID too. That's happened to a lot of
yeah,
people.
yeah.
That fatigue and they're still coughing and like
Hmm.
there's like they can't go
Permanent
back to
lung
work.
damage.
Permanent. Yeah. So it's like
It's a weird
I
thing,
yeah yeah
because
it mhm,
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know like how that's going to affect our insurance. But to
mm,
the round round robin back to like the SAG insurance, it is great. I mean,
mhm,
everything that we've had, especially when you have an infant and a toddler, you're gonna use all that insurance. I think she's used the insurance more than I have. Like
mm.
she you got the monthly checkups, in the first full year, all
Mhm,
the vaccines, and then all of the like just the checkups. And then you're gonna
mm.
get a boo-boo, and then you're a new parent, and then you're like, oh no, we need to take her to the doctor right away. She hit her head, or it's like something. And then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you find out these kids are just so durable. But it's good to have, but it's still like, because it is so slow, and because they've raised the minimum, it's got me kind of like,
Yeah, that minimum raising is because you know what? It's
mhm.
$16,000 is pretty good because it's hard enough as it is to get
Yeah,
a job on screen.
yep,
Like, so like
yep,
getting even one job on screen is hard enough, and there's no guarantee like unless like if you guest star,
yeah,
maybe you get to like 7 to 10 thousand
yes, yeah,
dollars on one job if you're like a really good guest star in a
yeah,
show. But that could be for one episode, and then you could have nothing for the rest of the year,
hmm,
and then get nothing out of it. So it's kind of 26 seems kind of high. Not even
that's
kind of high.
very
That's
high.
pretty high. It's really
It
high.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really high.
crazy, especially with the fact that they are counting the months that nothing has happened.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's been dead, 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 dead for everybody. And I know productions have started. I know a lot of people that have started auditioning, and started working again, you know, and it's just a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
that we're picking up from where they left off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a weird situation. And you, my friend, were in one of those situations where you're already working a job. You
Oh
were
yes.
already like, weren't you wrapping it up? How many more weeks did you have left of that
Ah,
contract?
three, I believe. I think we had 3 to 4 weeks. We had like a month left, really. Um, yeah, and we kind of saw it coming, really. I mean, it's interesting when you're in the middle of doing a show when something like this happens,
Yeah.
because you watch the news,
Hmm.
you you have a little fear, and then you go on stage and you do the show, and then you come off stage and then you watch the news again, because like
Yeah.
you know that the fate of your job is really in the hands of a lot of things that are happening outside.
Hmm.
So and they did their best. I mean, the producers did their best. Rudin did their best. Like they it, I'll tell you the story, but like literally of what happened the night before.
Yeah.
So really, the night before, it was. Oh, I think we stopped on the 13th of March, if I remember. So like it's March 12th,
Hmm.
and COVID is spreading. People are starting to be more aware that it is definitely in New York City.
Hmm.
Um, that night was the same night that Tom Hanks announced that he got COVID, and also
Oh
that
yeah.
Rudy Gobert in the NBA
Yeah.
got announced that he had COVID after he touched the mic and acted like an idiot.
You remember that? Look,
I was like,
yeah.
yeah, everyone was like, oh, Rudy, oh my God. So so and we were also in a situation where ushers were starting to get sick in theaters. So
Oh.
an usher next door at Virginia Woolf had gotten sick, and of course, because we have such great producers, they did everything. They like clean swept the entire theater the day right after. They had a meeting with all of us on stage to talk about it. Any concerns we had. It was literally the theater next door, so we're all kind of like
Yeah.
like hunched, just like scared a little bit. And
It's like, don't
for
talk to that theater. They're gross.
uh, you're like, yeah, don't talk to those guys.
They're like lepers.
Um, but what ended up happening was like, just behind the scenes in the cast, we're talking to each other, and we're just like, we all really felt like we're like, this isn't going to go on much longer. Like there's no way it can. Um like if it hits a point where the the ushers are getting sick, then audience members are getting sick, and then you have to think about the actors then at that point. Like, if
Hmm.
it's going to roll, it's going to roll up like that. So that night we all go home. We didn't even have a stage door that night. It was just like they were like, don't stage door. We're going to shut it down for the night. Everyone just go home. So we're all like, all right, cool. I go home. Um, and Savannah and I are talking about it, and I explained, the meeting we had, and I literally said to her, I was like, it's not going to be much longer. I was like, there's no way. There's no
Yeah.
way. So we wake up the next day. Six is supposed to open on Broadway that night. Like we're all, getting ready, I guess, to go to work, like thinking we would be going maybe. And then all of a sudden, we start getting like text messages from each. Like first we start to see the news of someone in Moulin Rouge got sick. Like
Oh man.
actors were
Yeah.
starting to get sick. So when we got that news, we were like, oh, there's no way. And then they canceled Moulin Rouge for that night, which was the next, because like I think they had two shows that they were supposed to have two shows that day. So they canceled the first show, and then they canceled the night show. And when they started to cancel the shows, I was I think I was still at home. I think Savannah had already left, and I was like, I think this is going to be it. There's no way. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, we started to get emails, and they were like, well, we're going to shut down. And we're like, oh God, here it is. And they said, and of course they said we're going to shut down for like 2-3 weeks,
Yeah.
and then everything will be back. And I was talking to Savannah about there being like, there's no way. There's
Yeah.
like no way, because how would you get control of the entire situation that fast,
Hmm.
with something that you don't know how it affects people? You're not quite sure how it's spreading. You think it spreads like the flu, but like still there were so many questions up
Yeah.
in the air,
Hmm.
that at that point it was just kind of like, how are we going to go back anytime soon? So even that 3 weeks off, we were all just kind of like, we don't know what's going to happen. I think other people had the same idea as I did, where they were like, there's no way we're going back. So people just started to go. People just started leaving.
Did you think that it was going to be not for 2 weeks, but you're like, you know what? They're crazy if they think 2 weeks, maybe a month, and we'll be good.
No, no,
No,
I thought longer. I thought it
really?
was going to be
What
a
was
while.
like,
Yeah.
and this in your initial thoughts before New York started getting pounded by the COVID? What was the longest that you thought it would be?
Whew,
6 weeks?
I thought, well, I'm a kind of a documentary hawk. So
Oh,
I'm the kind of person that like I like to be as informed about a situation as I can be
mm-hmm.
before I start to have any thoughts about what may or may not happen. So like I basically just started to look up um just how long other countries were shutting down for,
Mm-hmm.
how bad the situation, like how bad Fauci was saying the situation was,
Yeah,
and listening to that. And at first, I was like, well, it could be a good amount of months. Like
yeah,
in my head, I was like, it's possible. It's like 6 months before we even go back. Like, that was really kind of as we were all talking about it, other people in other shows, a lot of people that I do Hamilton with, we all kind of talked through group text. So we all were talking about it because Hamilton in Canada, of course, was canceled. The tour was canceled.
yeah.
So we kind of all were just musing about it, thinking like, how long could this possibly go on? And we were thinking like maybe several months. Is it possible that they get it under control in several months, or they think of a way to still be able to do this for several months? But we all knew vaccine wise, like when you look it up, they're
Yeah,
like, it takes
no.
like 2 years, is what they would
Yeah,
say. That's what Fauci would say, like
yeah.
baseline 2 years. And like when you hear that, you're like, oh God, there's no way. Just like a year, at least a year, probably. Um,
Hmm.
and that's basically at that point, you just kind of like, it's a weird moment,
Yeah,
actually. It's a very weird moment, especially if you like, I feel very grateful because I have worked a lot,
yeah,
and was in the middle of working. And it's an odd moment because if you've worked a lot and it's been several years since you've had like a break,
yeah, dude.
your first moment of like feeling is like, oh, a break. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you kind of have this like, oh, great, couple of weeks off.
yeah,
uh, but then there hits a point where you're like, couple of weeks off is going to be a couple months off,
yeah.
could be a year off,
Or it
could
could be
be a year and a half
forever.
off,
Yeah,
it could be forever. Like, and
forever.
that's
Yeah.
so like at first you kind of react to it like, okay, it's like summer vacation. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
react to it like that, where you're like, okay, I don't have to work. And luckily, like a lot of us had been working, so money, we weren't worried about money at that point, as others probably were in the business.
Yeah.
And those are the people I thought about more so than
Yes,
myself,
dude.
because I was like, I've been
Yes.
working for a while. I'm good. I can sit on this. Then I was like, but what happens to all these actors that didn't have work?
Yeah.
Like you're asking an entire industry of people to basically find something else to do all at once, which
Yeah.
is really difficult to pull off.
And what are they going to do? There's
Especially when
no
we're not in a
jobs.
there's no jobs, there's no situation where you can just go back to
Mm-hmm.
college and get a degree that you feel like getting,
Yeah.
because who's going to pay for it?
And no one's
Uh,
going to hire because I applied to teach at university at
hmm
my local, like at my undergrad here in South Texas.
hmm
And even then, they are like, we have a freeze, a hiring freeze right now. We don't even know what our
mm,
budget's going to be. And luckily, my undergrad did really well with the the federal funding. They did really well because they're part of the UT system. But even then, man, there's another college across town, and
mm,
they're struggling. I remember I reached out to the head of the
mm,
theater department there, and like I felt bad because I should have thought about it a little bit more, but I thought, no, no, it's gonna be fine. And this dude was saying, like, I don't even think we're gonna have a season for this year.
mm,
And I just
mm.
thought after I sent that email and his response, I was like, dang, that's awful, awful,
Yeah.
awful. And that's everywhere. Like, what are they expecting us to do?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of really when they started canceling seasons, that was like really, because
Mm,
that's how you knew, it's like there hits a point where when they start bringing up questions of like, will Music Man even open? And Music
Yeah.
Man was supposed to open in like October or November. Like, it's that kind of thing where you're like, okay, well, if you're asking questions about that and it's March right now,
Yeah.
it's
That's
like
crazy.
you're like, oh God, how long could this possibly go on? Um, so yeah, it's been a crazy time. It's been a really weird time. I
Yeah.
remember even at one point, um, self tape started happening again for like 2 weeks, and then immediately just stopped.
Yes.
And it was just
Yes.
kind of like, well,
I know
that's
that.
gone
Yeah.
again. Like, it just like,
Yeah.
yep, fluttered in, and it just
What happened with
so.
here in Texas? So I'm regional. And
Mm-hmm,
when before we moved, I've said this before in other episodes, but like just for like to give you like an idea of what I was thinking when I moved to
mm-hmm,
Texas was that the stuff that I was going to be going out for wasn't what I was going out for in New York. Like
mm,
the blue bloods in New York and like the Chicago PDs, the FBI's, like SVU, like all that stuff that they have in New York. I was
mm-hmm.
thinking that I'm gonna go on those like kind of Hallmarky movies, and there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
Hallmarky
No,
movies.
no.
There's a huge cult following for those, and I was like already making
Oh
peace
yeah.
with that, or like just like little lower budget sort of things. And I got agents in Austin, and I have a manager in New York, and I ended up getting sent out for like my best January and February ever in my career. Like just like
Oh
pilots.
really?
Like yeah, for networks, like pilots, movies, like features, like they were casting down here. And I was like, "Oh
Wow.
man, I can get down with this. This is great." They were sending me out, and then March hit, and then like you said, like there was like that little glimmer of hope in July.
Yeah.
Well, I know like that was at the time where governors were allowed to decide the opening and the
Mm-hmm.
reopening of the states. And my governor, I mean, he's done a lot of good things, but he's done some really dumb things. And one of the
Yeah.
dumb things was the reopening strategy. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
if you have a strategy, you lay it out and you follow that. That's exactly why you have that. So remember, I don't know if you heard like the phase plan. Like phase one
Mm-hmm.
is only going to be, essential places at 25% capacity. We're going to monitor it for a couple of weeks, like 2, 3 weeks. And then if the numbers dwindle down or everything stays the same, we'll go up to 50%. And then maybe in about 6 weeks, we'll open up the gyms and the bars. Man, they just kept opening up. And like that first weekend that they opened up the state for like that
Mm.
25% capacity, our numbers went up. And then
Mm.
they decided, you know what? Let's just go up to 50% capacity and let's open up gyms. Gyms, I remember the moment they said they opened up gym, I had a gym membership and at a gym here, Crunch. And I was like, there's nothing, I have nothing against this, but I'm not going to wear a mask and little rubber gloves. Like if you've lifted weights, the knurling on
Oh
the
my
bars
God.
will tear those gloves apart.
Yes.
You
Oh
know what I mean?
yeah.
They,
You'll
they
burn
won't
your hand.
last. And then I said, I'm going to cancel it. They didn't even fight it. They knew. They knew. Then our numbers skyrocketed and skyrocketed. And then like mid-July is when we just got pounded down here
Oh
in my
man.
county. Like we were in the news all the time. McAllen and Hidalgo County were in the news. Like we're losing like 40 people a day.
Oh
And
man.
our hospital were overrun, and it was crazy. And because we do have a high diabetic, and like we're statistically the fattest county in the
Is that
nation.
true?
Yeah, dude.
Really?
Yeah. We beat
Wow.
out some counties in Mississippi, and we beat out Houston, so we're pretty proud. And yeah,
Oh
but
God.
the pre-existing
Uh,
conditions, that if you have a health issue and you get COVID, diabetes, heart disease, all that, you're fucked. So you're dead. You know what I mean? So people were
yep.
dying left and right. And we have tons of people with diabetes. And
Oh.
I had like an audition, and I was like, yes, we're getting back. And then I I auditioned, and it was like one that I was so proud. Like you've been held back. You just like haven't done anything for months.
Mm-hmm.
You're rested. Your mind is fresh. You're ready to get back at it. One of the best tapes I've had. I felt
Mm-hmm.
it was, at least. And then a week and a half later, there's like, we're not casting anymore for this until
Oh
further notice.
God.
I was like, oh.
Oh.
And that was in July, and I don't think I've had anything since then.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it's just, it's
God.
slowly gonna open up. I've been keeping in touch with my agents and my manager, and it's just like in New York, they're wanting just local hires because they don't want to fly
That's
people
yeah.
out from out of the
That
state. And
that is
there's
yeah.
jobs.
Every audition I'm receiving, a lot of the ones that are like their New York shows, it'll say in the audition just
Yeah,
nobody from outside of New York, and because that's literally what I was gonna say to you. I was like, it's
yeah,
probably just because you're in Texas, and
hmm
that's literally it, and that sucks.
yeah. It's awful.
Yeah,
It's awful. And so I feel you, man. And
yeah.
just like you, like I was very, very lucky to have booked a national commercial the week after
Mm.
Anapa was born, like that
Oh
week.
wow.
Yes. And that's been helping us a lot,
Oh
this year.
good. How
So
have I not seen it? What was it?
oh dude,
I
it's
don't
one of
have it. I
those.
don't have TV, so what am I
Oh
talking about?
man,
Of course, I haven't seen it.
it's with Cindy Lauper,
Oh, I love
and
her.
it's for Cosentix for plaque psoriasis.
Oh,
So I'm playing her driver. And the fun story about that commercial was that I actually had booked this commercial or another spot 2 years before then, or a year or
mm,
two before then. And it was just one of those things where it was my stuff was going to be shot, at the last, those are the last stuff they were going to shoot for the whole commercial after 2 days. And I get to arrive on set and I report, to the trailer, and they break for lunch. So I get there at noon. I remember it was raining. I get there at the Hit Factory, actually. And
mm.
because she's recording, that's the commercial. She's recording a song because she's happy that she, cured her dry skin. And I'm supposed to pick her up from the Hit Factory. Well, I waited and waited and waited and waited for hours. It's the hurry up and wait stuff.
Mm.
And it was like 5:30, and the PA comes in. He's like, "Hey, Jorge, we're sorry, man, but Cindy's tired, and we're not gonna shoot your stuff, dude. So you're wrapped."
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh, are you kidding me? I waited here all day, and I got paid for the day, but since I wasn't in the commercial, I didn't get residuals. It's that first
oh
one.
man.
So like fast forward,
Hold on
I
a second. Cindy Lauper, if you ever hear this, you lost my man some money, son.
a lot of money.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Tired. Oh, that
And
sucks.
it sucked so bad. And what sucked worse was that I had to go through this whole process again. And I get a breakdown, like, that week is the end of May, because Anapa was born on May 25th. So a couple days after that, I get the breakdown from my agents, and they're like, "Hey, this is, for driver for Cindy Lauper." And I'm like, "I've done this already." And they're like, "Oh, that's right." And I go in there to the audition, and with casting at a place I've been to a million times, and they're like, "Jorge, were you really Cindy Lauper's driver?" And I'm like, "No, you already cast me in this same exact commercial 2 years ago." And they were like, "Oh shit, that's right."
Oh my God.
I'm like, "Are
Did
you
they just
kidding me?"
stop and go, oh, do you want the job?
Yeah, no, I had to go to a callback too.
Oh my
And the
God.
clients, they remembered me, and they stopped and they talked to me before my callback. So
Oh
I'm
my
there and I'm
God.
thinking, man, like I have to go through this whole like song and dance again. But luckily I did it, and they saw me on set, and they apologized for the last time. And they said, "We're gonna shoot you out first. So we make
Oh,
sure
that's
we
good.
get you this time." So that was my
Oh,
lucky
good.
break. And the last time I was in front of a camera, and that was like June, like something 2019.
Uh,
Man, ebbs and flows in this biz,
oh,
dude.
seriously. That's
It,
great. Like, it's so wild
mhm.
that, bro,
Yeah,
that whole story is that's a great story. That's a really great
and they
story.
were
Like, that
so
is,
sweet. And I
yeah,
know they had to do it because it's kind of like the right thing to do, to
yeah.
bring in the callback. But I was just like, just straight offer. That would have been cool.
Yeah, because I
Straight
mean,
offer.
at the same time, if they straight offered you, like, hey man, don't waste your time on this room you're trying to rent out or anything, like,
Yeah, save yourself
just
some
hand it. Come
money.
on,
Use
save
that
yourself some
money
money,
on me.
please.
Exactly. I got a kid. We got to feed her. College
Exactly,
isn't
man.
cheap anymore, man.
Oh, it sure isn't. Oh my God,
It's
we can
so
hope
crazy.
that by the time that she's college age, that someone will have done something about that
Oh man, I really
before you have
hope
to get
so.
there. Me too.
I really hope
Oh my
so.
God.
I just hope it's just not a lot of hot air.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it's just
Hmm.
like they do something. I think for the most part, if she wants to go to a state school, we've got some decent state schools here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But she just has to keep her grades up, and
Mm.
she's still got a ways to go. She's starting to talk a
Yes.
little bit. It's fun, you
Oh,
know. So, what did you
so
do
cute.
like during like the time off? So you did you do a lot
I
of reading, a lot of video game playing? Did you?
I
It
I
was,
played a ton of games, so many of
that's
them.
good.
Um, I've been playing a good amount of games. I've been trying to read more. I've been mostly doing a lot of like kind of introspective like life work that you don't get a chance to do. Just kind of
Absolutely.
like, when you have nothing to do and you have really like if your significant other is off working, you're just kind of like left to yourself.
Yeah,
So
dude.
then you're like you have nothing but you and your mind. And then and I've been going to a therapist for years now, and there hit a point uh in therapy where I was talking to her and I was just kind of like, you know, I'm I have a question for you, and I don't know if you'll think this is odd. And she was like, "What is it?" I said, "Do you think it's possible that I have ADD and I don't know? Do you think that's possible?"
Hmm.
And she was like, "Well," she's like, observing you, I may not think so. She's like, "But it is possible." She's like, and so we did the whole test. Like she
Yep.
asked me every question at the test, and I said, I just kept saying yes, and she was like, "Oh, okay, well maybe."
Maybe we need to talk.
She was like, Maybe." So that's, but not really a wrinkle in life.
Hmm.
Where like now I am diagnosed. I'm diagnosed for having ADD, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's been wild because what would happen is that at the beginning of all of this, we would start, and I also got my medical marijuana card, which was lit.
Ooh, nice.
Um, but at the same time, I got it for anxiety and depression. Um, and it was kind of one of those things where they kind of hit a point where I was like, something still seems a little off. So then I went to her to talk about it. And a big problem I was having was that when it came to reading,
Hmm.
I was having a problem where, and I'd always had this problem, but I never really thought about it. Where like I would read a whole page, get to the next page, and then forget what happened on the
On the
page
previous
before.
page, yes.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
and I something that always happened. So I would reread pages a lot, which of course would waste time in your own head because you're
Hmm.
rereading pages, and you start to feel like, why am I not retaining this information? Um, and really, like literally, the first time I took the pills for it, I sat down and read an entire chapter of a book in like 15 minutes, and then put it down. And I looked at Savannah, and I was like, "What? How long have I been reading?" And she's like, "I don't know. I wasn't paying attention." I was like, "I just finished the chapter." She was like, "No, you didn't." I was like, "No, I did. I just finished the chapter."
Yeah.
She's like, "That can't be." I was like, because I it was like the speed of which I was had always wanted to do things
Yeah.
that I would get frustrated at myself because it seemed as if the speed of which where my body wanted to go,
Yeah.
my mind couldn't go.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of just constantly really kind of taking everything moment to moment,
Yeah.
even more so than I used to, in order to not get ahead of myself. Because I think what happens is that I fall into a trap of anxiousness when I feel like I'm given something, or if I'm trying to read something and all of a sudden my brain isn't understanding it, but it's not understanding it because it's not retaining the information, but also while I'm reading,
Hmm.
something else is happening in my head. Like I'm thinking of other things that
Yeah.
I can't concentrate. So that's been a wholly new thing to have to go through now.
Yeah.
Which so but the thing that was also interesting was that all of this was happening at the same time as I was trying to come up with ideas of things to write about.
Yeah, man.
So so like I would come up with like an idea of something to write about and be like, and I have like in the notes section of my iPhone a lot of ideas now of things to write about, but I couldn't quite get myself past the idea phase
Hmm.
to put it down on paper and like
Yeah.
flesh it out. So at this point right now, after Savannah's done babysitting, basically the winter for her and I is going to be writing time. So we're going to try to start writing things that we've always wanted to write and see what happens with it. really the first couple of months of the pandemic, I was just taking almost like a sabbatical. I
Yeah.
was just taking I was just taking a moment. I was like, it's been several years since I've been like I've had this much to do basically nothing.
Hmm.
So I just kind of ran with it and took as much time as I could with that. But now I'm kind of like the itch is really
Yeah.
large.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just basically at this moment doing self tapes, and then now that the election is over and I don't have to be scared every single day of my life
Man,
in that manner.
I'd always be
Now that the,
scared.
yeah, exactly. You know,
You
like
know, it's just like,
always be scared, but like it's not the same heightness of
no,
fear. It's just
exactly,
like it's just put
exactly.
down a little bit, which is good.
It's the way I explain it to people. It's kind of like with the current president, you knew that
Mm.
there was always something going to happen. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And with the other
Mm-hmm.
one, it's kind of like if something happens, you kind of don't know. And I don't know
Nope.
what's better. I mean, because like here's the thing, and this is controversial, and this is not a political podcast, but this is like, when people are voting and people are talking about the things that the presidents are going to do and how they're going to handle
Mm.
things. One of the biggest things for me is immigration, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing that we talk about, the kids in cages, sort of thing.
Yup.
So my big thing was like we knew Trump didn't do anything about it. It was already done the previous 8 years, though. That's when it really started
Mm.
because it's in my hometown. It's in McAllen,
Oh yeah.
Texas, where these things are at. So one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that stood out to me was, okay, if Trump stays in office, nothing's going to change, right?
No.
It might even
Yep.
get worse. But the
Mm-hmm.
previous administration deported more people than any other administration
Yes.
ever. So
Yes.
what my question is like, is Joe, was he just talking, or are they going to correct what happened in those 8 years? Do you know what I mean? There
Well,
has to
so
be.
far, his biggest talking point on it seems to be about getting the kids back to their families as using like the federal government to
Yeah.
find those parents and get the kids back to their parents.
Yeah.
So like the only like major difference to me between the two, because that is one fact that like a lot of people I don't think know, which
No.
is something I had even read about, where like Obama had
Oh
deported more
man.
people than anybody else.
Dude, they
But
have tallies at checkpoints of how many people they
mhm.
deport. It's almost like a scoreboard. Drugs seized, people deported. It's been like that forever
Mm,
in Texas. Like
yeah,
you can see
and
that. And it's
yeah,
just like
and
people, I mean, no president goes without fault. And
no.
and here's the thing I do have to say about both guys is that they were given something that they did not expect would be what it is. So
Yes.
back when Papa Bush in 88, he had
Mm,
a very good immigration policy. They actually talked humanely. Everyone talked humanely about immigration, where, if these kids come across, we're going to do what Americans should do and take care of them, right? We need to
mm-hmm.
be hospitable and we're going to clothe them and feed them. Well, what they didn't expect was the drug war to happen like it did
Mm,
in the 2000s, where people are getting murdered by the thought. Like we talk about what's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan, how many people have died in there. There was a period in, I think, 2008 to 2011 or something like that. There was like a 5-year period where just the Texas border from Brownsville to El Paso on the Mexican side, so Matamoros to Juarez, no, yeah, to Juarez, um, was 40,000 people died, murdered.
oof.
40,000 murdered that they know of. So
Wow.
the bigger question that people have never addressed was, why are people willing to risk their lives knowing that they're going to be detained if they get caught on
Mm,
this side? The issue is like no one's talking about the corruption on the other sides of the border. Do you know?
mm-hmm.
And it's not just Mexico. It's just like Venezuela. Like we have friends from Venezuela who's saying like, people are talking about dictatorship. It's like, I just lived through a dictatorship. We left it. This is
Mm,
nothing like it. But, we have like these issues that, they're humane issues. But like, if we're butting our heads in other people's business in other countries, China's or Russia's or whatever, why don't we take care of like what's happening
yeah.
here? There's thousands of people that are hardworking, good people that just want to seek a better life, and we just have not figured that out, and like even gotten together
Mm-hmm.
with other countries, say, hey, we're going to aid you and assist you with this drug war, like, hey, like these people. But what ends up happening is we end up putting drugs back in our own streets.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's just a never
Yeah.
ending cycle with this. But it's just like my biggest thing with immigration was like, please, someone do something, because this is like
Mm-hmm.
huge. It's like my friend's family, they own farmland right on the river. And it's like, it's
Oh.
crazy if you see someone just almost dying of dehydration because they're trying to cross. They're trying to escape something for a better life over here. And what's going to happen over here? They're just going to be sent back.
Yep.
And it's just
Yep.
sad. And a lot of those kids that are missing from their family, or like separated from their families, well, they're separated from their families because their families sent them by themselves, because they
Mm.
wanted them to have a better life that they couldn't provide for them, and knowing that the
Yeah. It
US
was.
would take
Oh
care of them.
wow.
So it's a huge, there's a lot of stuff that's not told in the press. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, they could have addressed this when John Kerry visited, when he was running for president. It was
Mm-hmm.
in the national news, but no one made a deal about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that bugs
It's a
me.
weird It's a weird situation too, because it's. I don't. Most people in the country, I don't think understand the situation,
No.
and I even at points, because I immigration was something I've paid attention to, but not enough. And really, honestly, the first time that I really kind of started to understand it was watching a movie, honestly, which was crazy. It was Sicario.
Dude, that was one of the most legit
Yeah.
movies. Yeah.
And I literally started to look up everything after I saw that movie,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, what? And it relates so much of like what is happening on the other side of the border that is affecting this side of the border, and why it has been so difficult
Yeah.
to fix the problem, because
Yeah.
it's not just there's a drug problem. It's that people are being terrorized basically,
Yes.
and they're running for their lives. And the United States has to figure out whether or not we have a responsibility to these people. And I honestly, I think we do. If we're going to go, like, if we're going to go to Iraq, or if we're going to go way overseas
Yeah.
to do anything, I'm like, we should have the same responsibility right at our border, and we can't treat it like it's um, like people, like our country is being infringed upon. It's
Exactly,
like,
dude.
if anything, don't you want to make the border safer on both
Exactly.
sides of the country? And the best way you do that is bolstering and helping those countries to weed out all
Yep.
of the things that are happening.
Yep.
So I've always thought it was odd after a while, because when you really look into it, it becomes kind of striking that it, that the differences between the administrations are more like a kind of a more of a where one administration is does something on a large would be Obama's administration does something on a large scale, but does it in a way that is could be looked at in a more humane way, and then the other administration basically just went, we don't give a shit how it's done,
Yeah.
just do it, like, and that's
Exactly.
basically that was basically
Yeah.
really the difference between the two. But neither really
Addressed it
solves the problem. They don't address the problem, because I'm
because
like,
they're
if we're gonna
so
have
overrun.
wars overseas, why are we?
Yeah. Like those
I mean, yeah,
facilities.
it's kind of hard to protect the entire border.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so hard, man.
I don't
And
know how you
like,
do it. I don't
and
know
I
how you do it.
want to call someone a demon, but it's kind of like you've been given something. And like I said, like going back, if you're going to send all these people over here and everybody's going to come over here thinking that there's a better way, how many thousands of people are like, okay, how many undocumented people do they say that are in America right now? It's like about 3 million.
Mm,
So think about how many are caught and detained, and you're trying to figure out who's with what, or who's with who, and how did they get over here. And this kid doesn't speak a lick of English, and a lot of them are, there's a bunch that aren't even or Latin American. Some are Chinese,
mm,
some are Middle Eastern. They do have those kind of plots too coming across, because
yeah,
it's just a crazy situation. And I really honestly can harp about it, but I don't know the correct answer. And I don't think it's a lose-lose for a lot of people, you
it
know?
really is, because it's like, if you have the people that already came over here,
Hmm.
and then you give them a way to to become naturalized citizens.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful thing for the United States of America. But then you also have those people in the U.S. who are like, well, if you naturalize them as citizens, does that eventually take a job away from me that I was going to want? Which
Yeah.
is like
But how
a
many of them want to
silly
pave
argument to make.
roads? And how many of them
Exactly. Yes.
want to wash dishes and cut yards and work on like roofs? Like, get out of here.
That's literally my argument to it. I'm
Yeah.
like, you want to do these jobs? Like, is that what you're saying? I was like, also, God, what's that movie? What was that black and white movie? Was that Roma?
Yeah. Roma.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, like that movie even also gave me the same kind of sense of like,
Hmm.
there's a fundamental problem that, and I actually, the one thing I don't know is how the countries below us, Mexico, Venezuela, all those countries, how they're actually dealing with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Are
no.
they just doing nothing and then we're trying to figure it out? I
It's
have no
it's
idea.
very different. Like Venezuela, you had an actual dictator there where they would actually censor
Oh,
TV
okay.
and they would actually, kill
Oof.
people and they would
Mm,
starve people. And that's
mm,
coming from like there was a girl I went to undergrad with, and she was very vocal throughout this whole election process about, that aspect of the election and, people calling
mm,
people dictators and stuff. She's like, I know what a dictator is. And we're not at that moment yet, but
mm.
we're teetering on some
Yeah,
interesting
we're
we're teetering on some interesting
yeah,
things that can happen, especially when there's what's going on right now.
yes.
Even though we think the election isn't over until after December, and that's what
You
we
know, it's so
need.
funny.
We need it to just dude, like the guy needs to chill and just like, hey, take
He
the
just needs to
L,
chill and get
go
out.
home.
Take the L.
You've
Take
got
the L,
money.
please.
You're gonna have a TV show probably after this.
Probably a whole network
You're gonna
knowing
have
him.
well, that's what they're saying, that he might have the rumor is a news network.
Yes,
He's trying to do that.
but that's exactly, honestly, that's what I thought he wanted to do
Yeah.
before. I didn't think he wanted to really win the first
Oh
time.
man, no.
I thought he was just kind of like going to use all of that and then make some type of news network, and then he can basically facilitate a way to constantly make money, because I think that's what he's looking for. He needs a way to constantly make money that has nothing to do with real estate, and I mean, Trump TV makes sense.
Yeah.
We're not going to get rid of the man anytime soon,
Nope.
but
Or his
it is
family.
what, or his family. They're not going anywhere. But it is one of those things where, at this moment, I mean, and I've been talking to my friends about this today too, because they're kind of like, people are scared, of course, because they're like, where is this going? And I basically just have to like say to them, after like all the information I'd taken in, and watching lawyers talk about it and everything, and you're
Yeah.
like, it's not going anywhere. It's
No.
really not for anything other than to either appease him so he calms the hell down for a month and a half,
Yeah.
or so that when he's done, he still has some monicum of control of the Republican Party, because he's not going to let that go.
Oh no. And I
He
know he
wants
has
to be
dirt on a lot
worshipped.
of people. Otherwise, more would
Oh,
turn on him
yes.
because there are a few that are turning on him. I mean, a
Yes.
bunch. Not even Fox News is even turning on him.
Ooh,
Which is really
Rupert
interesting.
Murdoch.
It's
Rupert
so
Murdoch's like, you can kiss my.
yeah. And what I'm thinking, and I don't know, like what your opinion is on this, just because we're in the
Mm,
entertainment industry and we love shows
mm,
and we love stories, but for like before people that are watching or some redneck is probably going to see this as a Mexican and a black guy talking about this. He's like, they need to stick to acting. Their job is to act. But in a way, this is a thought that I had. In a way, it was almost like we needed something like a crazy person like this to be
mm,
president in order for us to realize, okay, whoa, we need to get shit back in order in America. Things
yeah.
are getting out of hand. You know what I mean? It got a little too complacent. We got a little too, and this is what can happen if we don't watch out.
Yes. Yes. I mean, when I was watching some election analysis of voters, right, basically, and they were talking about that the fact that the U.S. is basically stagnant right
Yeah.
now. We're basically stagnant, other than the big tech companies and I guess really in Tesla and like, those kind of companies. Like other than that,
Yeah.
the entire country is kind of almost in a freeze where they said the same way that people voted for Reagan, it's
Mhm.
actually still this, oop, as I drop my iPad, it's actually still the same percentages now. Like it's still
Really?
the same, like 50% of white people voted for 50% of like 57% of white men voted for Reagan, and he's like 57% of white men voted for Trump. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And what I think it is, and a lot of people seem to really believe this too, is that we hit a point where us as a country, the people of the country, have been asking for things for years,
Yeah.
and our actual politicians are not giving it to us
No.
because basically with Citizens United being there,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do to get money from like an insurance company not going
Yeah.
to somebody, so that they all of a sudden they're doing what's in the best interest of a company instead of the best interest of the actual Americans.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those situations where I said this to Savannah last night too. I was like, what I think happened was that people got so fucking tired of it that they said, you know what, put him in there, and just like and
That's exactly what happened.
they thought he would be able, because that's what he said he would do.
Yeah.
So they thought that's what he would be able to do those things. But then when he got in, he just kind of he didn't care. So
No.
he just kind of let Congress and all them, he let Mitch McConnell do whatever he wanted.
Hmm.
And he just kind of like, hey, what do you want, Mitch? And Mitch is like, I want judges. And he said, all right, whatever.
There you go.
It just gave it to him,
Yeah.
and then didn't really do anything else other than the taxes.
Yeah.
So I, I've been talking to Savannah about this a lot because of the fact that I said to her, I really want to make this TV show. It's probably the thing I'll write first. And I was like, I wanted to make a show called Mr. President,
Yeah.
where it's a president who is someone who is not so much voted into office, but someone that's almost forced into office because everyone's like, you are the person that needs to do this, and they're
Yeah.
like, it's always the person that doesn't want to do it that should be president. That, to me at least. So
Yeah.
it's like, what if you had someone that got forced into office and then had to try to fix the entire fabric of America,
Yeah.
um, but and see what happens when all those pressures are put onto a normal person. Um,
Hmm.
but in general, I believe that the poorest of people that are white and the poorest of people that are minorities all have the exact same gripes. They don't have a person that they believe is actually going to give it to them. And that's
Exactly.
literally, to me, what it is that everyone has the exact same complaint, but no one that wishes to actually do something to get that complaint done. Because most people want Medicare, and most people want those sections of the country that don't have coal anymore. Most people want to give them an industry so that you can
Hmm.
shore up that part of the country. The more the entire country is strong, the more everyone else is strong. But as simple as something like yesterday when McDonald's was like, "Oh, we've made a McPlant burger now," where it's like, those companies will stop other companies from doing things
Yeah.
until they can catch up to the innovation,
Yeah.
and then they could take it over themselves. So it's kind of like this weird, an oligarchy is really what we are at this moment,
Yeah.
where just it's just money. It's just corporate money, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of corporate money, and just wondering how in God's name do you get it out in
For me,
I'm it's going to be basically like crazy executive orders all over the place.
it
This is
is.
what's going to happen. But
It's going to be
yeah, for you, what?
in a weird way. This is the argument I've always heard, and I get it. People are always saying if you vote third party, your vote is wasted, and
Mm-hmm.
and then it's true. Like if you're going to vote a third party in New Jersey, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna hurt.
It's waste.
It's a waste. You know, it's a blue state. In
It's a waste
Texas,
here.
if you
Yeah.
vote
Yeah.
a third party, it's a red state. It's changing, but at some point, the two-party system is starting to like it's either R's or D's. And if you're with us,
Mm-hmm.
it's like Bloods and Crips. Like you have to like join this
Mm-hmm.
gang or this gang, but there can't be a third person. But there has to be a certain voice of reason, or there has to be some other mediators, or there has to be someone and to come in there and kind of shake things up, kind of like what Ross Perot did and ruined the election
Mm-hmm.
for George Bush. But he had a ton of votes. But if you have a third party, a third idea, and people, you have to get a good amount of people to get on board with that, to even start
Yeah.
shaking it up. And it'll be wastes of votes for maybe this election, the next election, maybe in the next two elections, they'll start to see that. But I really wish there was a possibility for a third party to give us something else to work with, just
Same.
another idea to hear. And the stigma of the whole, like, you're wasting the vote, like I get it, but I also just think, like, man, like, if we stop thinking like that, then maybe we wouldn't have a Donald Trump in office. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Or we wouldn't be dealing like, man, I don't like this, I don't like Joe Biden, or I don't like Donald Trump. Like, I saw so many signs that were like neither. And it's kind of like, I get it. You've already
Yep.
dealt with Joe Biden for 8 years, and you've had Donald Trump, and like you're gonna get them again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's kind of like, and it's I mean, it's just a weird situation. And it's just something I would love to see eventually, is like
Yeah.
a third party candidate come up. But then they're probably going to say that that guy's the antichrist, and then they're going to take us to all the wars, and the aliens are going to come down and get us.
God.
And then all life as we know it are going to fall under this one third party dictatorship. And that's what the Republicans and the Democrats are going to say to a third party, that that's the satanic ritual abuse. And that's when Alex Jones is really going to have a
Yep.
heyday with his
He's gonna
craziness.
explode out of the
It's
ground.
like,
He's like,
I told
yes,
you,
it's
I told you
happened.
there
I
was
told you.
the reptilians are going to come out there, and they're gonna take over. That's what this third party candidate is. He is eating children's blood. I saw him at the Bohemian Grove. That's what he was
Yeah, look at
doing.
his neck. Look at his neck. You can see the skin, the reptile skin, right?
Look at that. He's using Cosentix to hide it.
His neck. It's like, but see, the thing that's actually kind of interesting about this is that what I'm hoping, and because Trump apparently has floated. They floated to him like, maybe run again in 2024, right?
Yeah.
This is what I'm hoping. This is what I'm hoping. If he actually does that,
Mhm.
I hope he actually doesn't run as a Republican.
No.
I think that because I honestly believe that what he has basically negotiated to some extent is that he has created the third party already.
Yeah.
We're just missing the fourth one.
Yeah.
Like the far right party is now to me like this, whatever this QAnon thing is and all of that. That is
the
far
boogie,
right party.
the Boogaloo Boys.
The Boogaloo Boys, yeah. Like that to me, that is
Yeah.
the far right party. And then the Republicans, then Democrats, and then you have progressives, and like
Yeah.
slowly but surely, the Senate and the House keep getting beat within their own party by these people that are
Yeah.
coming from the outside because
Yeah.
people are sick of them. So, and it's one of those things where Joe Biden's task is actually pretty large, because it's large, but also at the same time, both parties would benefit from what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Because what he's really trying to do is to not only uh, create trust with the Democrats again, he's trying to create trust with the Republicans again from within their own party.
Yeah.
He wants both of those parties to go back to what they were, which would stabilize the government itself.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it wouldn't stabilize the people
No.
unless they really put all this garbage aside that we've been doing for like 12 years of like obstructions and filibusters, and like put it all aside and
Yeah.
just get it done.
Well, like that whole thing with the
Don't fix it.
with the stimulus. One
Like,
side,
what
one
were they
side, one side
doing?
would be good. Like the Republicans, like, we're finally agreeing with something. Then the Democrats will shut them down. Then the Democrats say, we got something. The Republicans like, nah. And then
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like, this isn't about your egos. There's like
Yeah,
millions of
exactly.
people's lives at stake, and we're talking about all the actors that have been out of business because Broadway is going to be shut down through what, 2021? What, February? That's what they're
At
saying, or
least,
January?
right now they said up to really July, I think July, August, but like we don't think we're going back to work until at the fall. Like,
Ooh.
and vaccine is coming, which is like good and great.
Yeah.
And that Pfizer one being at 90% right now is wonderful.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where like we have almost another year to go.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
so so it's one of those things where the stimulus thing was wild because you look up north of us and
Yeah.
everyone's already getting like $1,000 a month from
Yeah.
Canada. They're like, we got you guys,
Yeah.
like, and it's one of those things where we're watching them fight about things
Yeah.
that people clearly, we clearly as Americans could give a shit less about their pondering anymore. Like nobody
Exactly.
cares.
We remember they were having that one. They were having the debate about the stimulus,
Hmm.
and I think the Republicans finally agreed to something, and they're waiting on the Democrats. At this point, it was one of those
Yeah, it
points
was
where it was like
one
they're
point eight trillion dollars. They
yeah, so it
all,
was
yeah.
something like that. And they finally came down to like I think the Democrats wanted 600 and the Republicans said no 200, and they came down to like 300. Okay, we'll meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
And then they said, "Oh no, tomorrow's our hiatus. We're going to take a break now. Like let's just take our vacation.
literally.
Screw the people that are not working, that have lost their businesses, their jobs, like they
Yep.
can't go to work, and it's just kind of like, man, how is that gonna play out? Like, and is that gonna change after? They were saying like that's gonna change after the election. Are we waiting until after the election? It's like, okay, so is this
So
about
it's over.
y'all or is it about us?
And that's honestly, I don't think it's about us anymore.
No,
That's what I
no,
think, that's what's really pissing people off, because it's like you guys are fighting each other because you don't like each other. And
yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. But there are some simple things that could be done by both parties
yep,
to just like an infrastructure, like just simple things that it's like
yeah.
really a lot of places need, especially a stimulus, especially an infrastructure bill. It's like all of those things are
Figuring out
so
school,
just school,
getting
just
kids in
simple.
school, and like having like an idea of like how are we gonna handle school?
I mean, we're just basically at a point where every subject, no matter what it is now fully politicized and used as a weapon.
Yeah,
So it's like one of those things where everyone's just like, we're done with the weapons, please stop it.
yeah,
Like mask mandate should not be a political topic.
yeah.
Just mandate it. And the thing that's actually kind of wild is that a lot of people are basically saying that if COVID didn't happen, Trump basically wins.
Yeah,
Like
no,
without
and it would
COVID,
have.
he
Yeah,
would have won. And it's like one of those things where it's like we're in a place where you have basically received a pass for this election to do the right damn thing.
yeah.
And I what I'm fearing is that there are, at this moment, if the next 4 years don't go well enough, that people are just going to be like, you know what, Democrats, that's it, man, we're out.
Yeah.
And just people are just gonna be like, peace, because really to me
Republicans
that,
too. It's going to be the same way on
oh
both
yeah,
sides.
yeah, because I think that will cause people to become Republican more, because really Democrats is like, oh, we're all in this together, and then
Yeah,
they don't do the thing they said they were
yeah,
gonna do, and then Republicans are like, it's every man for himself. And I'm starting to think everyone's gonna be like, you know what, screw it, every man
yeah,
for himself. And
yeah.
they're just gonna run with that instead. And then, God help us then, because then it's just people fighting over money, and
It's
it
really all it
becomes,
is. And then we're not going to
it's
have
just
money
money.
because no one's working.
No one's working.
Do you
So it's
think
like,
during this whole pandemic, because of everything that's going on, we've had
mm,
we've had the COVID, we've
mm,
had the protests and riots, and we've
mm,
had the police brutality. We've also
mm.
had murder hornets. We've also had the
Oh God, the
craziest
murder
election.
hornets.
Dude, I just saw something today. Like they went back to the murder hornets today on
Mm.
what was it
I remember seeing
one of
it
these
too. I don't remember one
they
of the networks. They talked about they killed a bunch of queens, right?
yes, 500 virgin queens ready to breed.
And they were like, "Good
500.
thing we caught him in time." I
Yeah.
was like, "What?
And they're
My
saying like we
God!"
think not many got away, but some did. And I'm like,
Oh,
man, well, at least it's in Northwest Washington or in
yeah.
Oregon,
I'm like, sorry, Washington.
Yeah, sorry,
Like,
Bigfoot.
don't go up in the mountains, guys. Sorry.
It's crazy. And so that's happening. Do you think that what out of all this stuff, because this is obviously going to be inspiration for a lot of artwork coming out,
Oh yeah.
movies and TV, what is the one thing you don't want to see that's based off of this year?
Mm. Oh my God, that I don't want to see. Oh, Oh man, I you know what is the thing that really kind of gets me if I see a movie that um tries to portray all of this without the gray areas,
Yeah.
that'll piss me off really. Because to me the gray areas are the interesting part.
Yeah.
Um so whenever I see anything that can be put on one side or put on the other side, is like there's so much gray in the middle, and that's where really all of the interesting stuff is.
Yeah.
Um but maybe oh, there's been so many things. Of course, there's already a Michael Bay kind of COVID movie.
See, yeah.
Did you see the trailer for that?
Jesus.
Terrible.
No,
Uh,
that's the thing. Like, I knew
I don't
I mean,
really
I
want
think
to
we
see a
all got
COVID
a hint
movie.
that there was, we knew there was
I
going to be
don't want a
some.
COVID movie.
I don't want a COVID movie. That's the one
I
thing
don't
I
want a
don't want to
COVID
see.
movie.
Contagion was
And
already
Michael Bay's
made.
already done it.
Yes. Yeah. It's already
Oh.
been done. They've already they've done Contagion, and they also did Outbreak.
Hmm.
You know,
Two movies I rewatched during this
me
quarantine.
too, me too. And what the one thing I
Contagion is really good, really
really
the
good.
best researched movie. Yeah,
Oh my gosh! And then
Soderbergh did a great job.
Outbreak was amazing because they just thought that the only cure for this disease was to blow up this city.
Yeah, they're like, we're
So
just
you
gonna
know what?
blow them all to
Imagine
pieces.
that if like you're there in New York and it's like, you know what? I think New York has the highest numbers. You know what? We're gonna just take care of Manhattan. You know, and it's gonna be like
God.
I Am Legend. That's how I Am Legend started. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just, that's what's gonna
or like
happen.
or
That's
like
what.
Return of the Living Dead, where they just like, well,
Yes.
yeah, let's just nuke it. You're like, wait.
I also feel like there's going to be a new wave of new zombie type of movies because
Oh
of the
yeah.
COVID. There's going to be kind of like a mutated form of like a pandemic, and you're going to see a bunch of those movies coming out. I think one
Mm.
thing you said that was really interesting that I think would be fascinating is the gray area movies. Like,
Hmm.
say you have what was a city that had a lot of activity, like Portland, maybe,
Oh
in
yes.
terms of
Oh
riot or
yes.
protesting. I mean, I don't want to do just focus. It's too easy to do like the Antifa rioting, sort of like Chaz.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
but like a place like, was it Milwaukee or Kenosha?
It was Kenosha, Wisconsin, and Milwaukee. Those would be with like George Floyd
The George Floyd,
and
like in that area,
yeah,
right?
that would
Say
be interesting.
in
Yeah,
Minnesota, wasn't it Minnesota?
that was Minnesota. Yeah.
Okay, so like in that city, say they had the protest, right? And there's a pandemic
Mm.
going on, but in the middle of all this, there is a young kid who's actually like figured out something to end something. You know what I mean? Like almost like
Hmm.
this is the person who's actually uh found a way for an alternative energy source. And this the whole
Mm.
surrounding thing is, you know, the uncertainty of the pandemic, police brutality, whether or not that he's going to be the next person that gets shot, or what if
Hmm.
his parents are police officers, they get killed too, or what if they died
Ooh.
of COVID? You know what I mean? Like it's like a
Oof.
whole situation, but
Yeah.
what if there's like a team of this kind of like, those kind of inspirational Disney sports movies where,
Oh
the
yeah.
kids make it through some sort of adversity all surrounding them, whether they're like in like the ghetto or the barrio,
Mm.
like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
learned how to play checkers, like, or chess, in our
Chess.
hood
Yeah.
homes. Say, hey fool, we learned how to
Anton
play.
Fisher.
Yeah, like Anton Fisher. Yeah, exactly. It's something like that. That would be, I think, a fascinating story that would go against the grain of what I think you're going to see an abundance uh of those kinds of films that are coming out, or
Yeah.
TV shows. You
It's
know,
interesting. Yeah, because it's weird because I'm not. It, a lot of great art, and this is the thing that I find to be it's gonna be kind of wild about this because I think a lot of great art is going to come out of this year,
yeah,
but I think it'll be that the art itself is um just influenced by the year instead of it being about the year. You know
yes,
what I mean?
yes,
And those are the things I'm the most excited to see. Um, because I don't know if I'm like I wouldn't be very excited to watch a movie about like George Floyd's life. Like it's kind of a thing where you're like, I've seen the awfulness of this already,
hmm,
and we're all trying to make it better and get past it. but certain things, I think certain things can't be made into movies. That
Yeah.
because you know what is
Or
that
yet.
movies, or yet, because I think a lot of people, and I don't know if it's movie producers or if it's the writers or but at this moment, uh everything I've either read or even kind of come across, it all, it's really hard to generalize,
Yeah.
because people generalize when they write a lot of the times that
Yeah.
I'm seeing,
Yeah.
and the generality of it evokes kind of nothing.
Yeah.
um like, I'm more interested in the actual person's story of their life,
Yeah.
more so than I'm interested in how you can figure out a way to make a movie about prisons or make a movie about this or this or that. It's just like it has to
Yeah.
come from the inside out instead of the outside in, really, when it comes to like writing things like that, is
Yeah.
what I'm hoping
Hmm.
happens. Because you can have like the amount of people in New York that could probably write a script about what happened to them this
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
and make it as personal as possible, because I think that's kind of where it messes up, where the personalization of it gets
Yeah.
messed up. And then you end up with movies that are kind of fluffy, really.
Yeah.
They're more fluff than not. I mean, I
Or
don't
it's more
know.
catered toward that one person or that one demographic. Like that was an issue that I
Yeah.
had a lot when I was in New York, was that there was a lot of good theater, but a lot
Hmm.
of that theater was written for New York.
Yep.
It wasn't written for people 10 miles even outside in New Jersey or even upstate in New York. It's for people in New York City. And a lot of people, if they're going to
Hmm.
write about pandemics, they're going to write about their experience. Like, oh man, my Uber didn't come on time. Or like, oh, Grubhub guy. Or, we had a relationship with
Yeah.
the person, across the hall. But like, there is a whole country, that was dealing with it in a totally different way, similar, but very different. And I feel like a lot of
Hmm.
stories like about New York or LA are just kind of like, that's the thing
Yeah. I
too.
mean, yeah, because it's like if, and the thing that happens with stories like that is like if you don't, you almost have to make the city a character in those stories in order for them to have the impact that
Yeah.
you would want them to have.
Yeah.
Like when people make stories like that, sometimes they don't they don't feel impactful for other people, like because they can't relate to it. I mean, it is kind of an industry wide problem, I would say, in theater, where
Yeah.
I don't think that people truly understand the things that people will go watch. Like
Yeah.
I feel like it really they go, well, if we just make these movie musicals, people will watch them because the people will watch these movies.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like they've watched these movies. But it's like when it becomes to a something that is really like impactful, I
Hmm.
feel like they either a have a hard time um understanding how it would be impactful to that group of people because they didn't grow up in that group of people or anything, so
Yeah.
they wouldn't know. So like you could read a script that's amazing, but then you're kind of like, well, this isn't going to sell because to you it won't,
Yeah.
but maybe it actually will.
Exactly.
I think people are scared to take a chance
Hmm.
uh, uh, to spend their money on things at this moment. And that's the
Yeah.
thing that scares me about coming back, is
Yeah.
that we're now coming back where the producers have lost money, the theater owners have lost money, and I'm scared there's going to be just nothing but movie musicals so everyone could get their money back. Like,
Yes. That's
where I'm
that's
like,
going to be the big thing. But think about that as well with an added hit to the budget because of COVID precautions. That's an extra
exactly,
million or so
exactly.
slapped on there. So that's, you're going to take that out of production costs.
Yeah,
And that's why
yeah.
a
So
lot of these little TV shows are going to be hit with that. And a lot of these shows
mhm.
that we're going to go forward are going to be canceled. They need to go with like stuff that's going to make money. So
Yeah,
be
yeah.
prepared to see a lot of just blockbuster-ish type of movies. I mean, Disney already had their slate with the Marvel series coming out. So they were already ready for that, which was lucky for them at this point because they had
Yeah.
already started production on those. And they were smart about that, but like how many people, okay, let's just go back to those Disney like Marvel shows. Like, yes, those are new Marvel shows, but they're not new Marvel actors. Those are people that are already in the
Hmm.
Avengers.
Yep.
WandaVision already had, Elizabeth Olsen and what's his name? Paul Bettany,
Paul
as
Bettany. Yeah.
Vision. Yeah. And so you also have the Hawk, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye has his thing too. And
Hmm.
these are guys that are already in the big blockbuster movies. So if they've already got established actors, how are they going to get new people, new faces? Like people,
Yeah.
that like us, were right there teetering. How are we
Hmm.
going to break in now? It seems as, I don't know. It could be good for us because they do want more content since nothing was shot during this
Yes.
time.
Yeah,
Or,
that is the good thing.
you
Like we
know,
may get more opportunities and auditions,
yeah,
but you know what? Funny enough, Savannah and I had a conversation about
mhm,
this the other day,
yeah,
talking about um, new faces, basically, like new faces, new people.
yeah.
And I wonder if you, because I floated this out to her, and I wonder if you agree with this, that I have felt in the past couple of years, like with Netflix starting and going forward, and it being a big thing, and then also with Amazon and like all of
Mhm.
those uh, now lovely online little networks, that there I'm seeing a lot of people say this was my first job,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That get those jobs, but I'm not seeing a lot of minorities saying this was my first job that are getting a lot of those jobs.
Here's
You know what I
my
mean?
beef with that. Not with
Yeah.
your statement, but with
Yeah.
those networks, the minorities that are saying this is my first job, or those quirky secondary characters. I've
Yes.
seen some movies or shows on these networks where it's cast so woke, where I'm a Mexican dude and I want to work in some of the like shows that I'd be proud of, but I don't want to be cast in a situation where I am forced on casting, where the part was originally
Yes.
written for a white dude, or an Asian
Bro.
or whatever, and they need to
Bro,
fill a
wait.
quota. Because I was watching
Wait.
one show. Did you watch? It was
Oh.
there was this. I mean, I love Shutter and I love the Creep Show series on
Oh
Shutter.
yes, yes,
The
yes.
Gin
Yes, really good.
episode. Remember the guy in the suitcase?
Oh yes, yes.
Those three people would never hang out, and it's not believable that they would be best friends or she would ever date that dude ever.
No.
Never. That was the most woke casting I've ever seen. Like that guy and that guy would not be best friends, and she
Yep.
would never give that guy the time of day to
No.
be his ex-girlfriend even. So there's things like that, and you see it all the time. And even in Riverdale, man, Riverdale is my guilty pleasure. I mean,
Hmm.
look, I have a Stars Hollow poster above me. It's Rose's poster. But like it's in Riverdale, like they even forced kind of the whole what's her name, Veronica Lodge.
Mm, mm,
They turned her family into, I don't even know if they're even calling themselves Mexican. I think what's his name, Mark Consuelos, is Mexican, but like they
mm.
try to do this, push this, like, what, we're gonna make them Latino, right?
Yep.
But it's one of those things where instead of like trying to figure out if you want to be legit hardcore Latino or just kind of like enough to be safe for the white audience Latinos, because like you hear
Mm,
Mark Consuelos, like they're gonna throw in like like kind of stuff that we call each other, like mija, mijo, like like my daughter, like, but he'd be like, hey
mm.
mija, or like they'll throw in like things like, oh, café con leche, like it's just like, okay,
Oh
just say you just
God.
got me coffee. That's all it is. You don't need
Yes.
to
Just
like
say you got
throw
me
in like,
coffee.
oh,
You
to
ain't gotta do
remind
it.
people that you are Latino. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or Hispanic or Latinx or whatever it is. Like, it's
R-
just, I'm like,
I have a story for
oh,
you because you just said something that was literally on my mind, or you said people playing parts that they definitely should not have even been offered the audition for. I can't say what it is
yeah,
because I'm sure I'd get in trouble.
oh yeah,
But I was offered an audition recently where when I actually did the research to look up the person, the real person was white,
yeah,
and
they will do
I
that.
and I like kind of saw it and went, wait, what? And I immediately just like emailed my agents and were like, so what is going going on here? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, they basically decided. She said the director and the casting decided to make the character black, and I literally went, but this is a real person. This is
Yes.
a real, like, if
Yes.
I were to do this movie, cast in this movie, do the entire movie, and then the trailer came out, like if I had auditioned and got the part and the trailer came out, and then someone looked it up and was like, wait a minute, this
Wait.
dude's
Yeah.
not. And I'm like, that destroys probably my whole career,
Yeah.
like on the onset of getting like the first film I've
Well.
ever done. I was like, why would I
Yeah.
say yes to this audition? Like, I was like, this is, why are you guys doing this?
I
I
have.
was so upset.
Oh, no, no, no. I have two stories for you. One is a
Mm,
woke casting sort of thing, and I had gotten a breakdown, and the breakdown was for, I'm not going to say the movie or TV show or
mm,
whatever project it was, but it was for a character that
mm,
obviously had a white name. In the
mm.
breakdown, it said, don't look at the age, because it was like for someone like 45. I'm 37. It's like they say, don't worry about the age. They just want someone that's not white that can act. And I'm like, why didn't you just like why didn't casting just put in the breakdown, you know, open ethnicity? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Instead of just saying that, like, oh, we want someone that's not white that can act. You know, like I take offense. Like, I mean, you know,
Same. I do. I
it's
took
just
offense. I took offense to the same. Like, just I took offense
because
to it. I was like, this is rude.
and it's like it's like, okay, that's an insult to the white actors out there, but it's also an insult to us because it just makes me feel like they're just pity casting us.
Yes.
You know
Yes.
what I
Because I'm
mean?
like, it's either pity casting or you had a quota to fill, and I don't care about either.
And I don't know. Okay, one more thing about that too, and then I got another question for you.
Okay.
Was well, before that? So there is this. There's an actual real cartel guy here in South Texas in Nuevo Laredo. I
Mm,
can't remember his full name, but his like gang name. You know, like you have El Chapo was Chapo.
mm.
Well, this was El Barbie. And they called him El Barbie because he was a Mexican, but he was blonde with blue eyes. He
Whoa.
looked like, if you saw him, you would think he was just some white boy, but he was one of the bosses down in Nuevo Laredo, so just about two
Mm,
hours from where I live. And he got arrested several years ago, and of course they have to make a movie about a big, narco that got arrested.
mm.
So the guy who's producing it and is starring as El Barbie is Charlie Hunnam, the the British
No, I
guy
know who you're
from
talking about. I
Sons
know.
of Anarchy. British. I'm like,
No.
just like you said, like if you look up the person, they are Hispanic.
So I can't.
You know what I
I
mean? Just
can't.
because they're white doesn't mean
I
like
just can't.
it's like I get it. You know what I mean? Like I'm light skinned. Like I
I
could play a white
just
dude,
can't.
but how many white dudes are gonna get mad about that? Here's the other thing too. You know how there's certain demands being made by people of color right now in the industry.
Mm, mm,
And I think it's great. We do need representation. We do need
mm.
to be seen, and I do feel like there's a moment where we need our stories told. But do you feel, and this is my thought, and you can
Mhm,
disagree with me or agree with me, and I just want to know what you
mhm.
think, that by making these demands, that studios are going to be like, yes, we are with you, team. You know what, brothers, sisters? Can we call you brothers and sisters? Amigos, amigas. Can we
Ah,
call you that? We're going to have shows,
uh,
and they're just going to put together stuff in a hurry, low budget, deal with it or not. And they're just going to hand
mm.
out shows. And I think there's going to be some legitimate good shows, but I feel like they're going to toss something together really quick and in a hurry to appease the masses.
Oh, basically, just kind of like throwing like what
Just
if you
shut
have a
up. Yeah.
dartboard and you just threw like 500 darts and once, like whichever one sticks.
Yeah. We got this for you. Look, we're doing it for you. You got your show, you got your series.
I do think that's possible. I think that's very possible. I mean, I I I believe that there needs to be some kind of reckoning in the world of theater and in the
Yes.
world of Hollywood to an extent. Hollywood's TV is getting there before every
I think
leader because
yes,
and it's specific networks that are giving
yes,
the people of color the actual, not only the jobs, but also putting them in charge of their shows.
yep,
And that is actually what I think is going to do it. It's to have the creative control, because what I've noticed happen to people in theater too, is basically that because they don't have the creative control and they're not the ones paying for it,
yeah,
they're basically being told what to do,
yep,
even if they don't like it.
yeah.
So it is kind of it's a creative control problem. I don't know how theater gets there faster without just making all of the writers executive producers as
Yeah.
well, so that they have a level playing field of some sort,
Yeah.
or without. But I would say like HBO is ahead of everybody. Like,
Netflix is close behind.
and Netflix is close
It's very
behind.
close
Like, but like
behind. They have the new
HBO,
Selena series, Stars. Uh,
Selena looks good. That looks
s-
pretty
I
good.
just 2 episodes ago I had Ricardo Chavira. He's playing Abraham Quintanilla, so Selena's dad. So he
Yeah.
was on
Oh,
it.
is it
Yeah.
already out?
No, it's coming out
Oh,
December.
it's right. Oh, so
December
2 episodes you had
3rd.
him on here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
looking forward to watching. I saw the
Oh
trailer and I was
man.
like, this looks phenomenal.
It looks legit, dude.
It
Like
looks really
it
good.
looks so good. And I think it's one of the things that Ricardo brought up was that movie Selena came out what 99, 97, somewhere around there.
Something like that. Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, think about this. It's been almost 2 decades, basically 2 decades, and we haven't had a show representing the Mexican community like that.
Mm.
Why is
Mm-hmm.
that? Why do we have to wait 2 decades basically? We had Vida on Stars, which was really good, and then there was other Mexican or not Latino shows, um,
Mm.
but it wasn't like Mexican, South Texas Mexican. Like, we don't have that. Why, if you had such a huge success with this movie, why wasn't there anything snowballing? You know what I mean?
So,
Like,
and this is what I think happens with that. It's that it's like the same thing with like Black Panther, where no one ever thought they would be able to make Black Panther,
yeah,
because they're just like they didn't think the Black community would go watch it,
yeah,
which is like asinine when you like really think about it.
yep,
Like, the thing is that I and Savannah and I even talked about this too, where we're like, the problem is that they're not. We want stories of victory on screen.
yes,
We want them. We want them. We don't. We've had enough stories of like slavery and of us being oppressed and things like
Boys in
that.
the
But we
Hood,
want
Menace to Society,
boys in
like
the hood.
we're gangsters. Yeah,
Yes, but like we want stories of victory. So like
yeah,
something like Selena, even though she had an untimely end, is still a story of victory to an extent.
yeah,
Like, her career was amazing, and what she did for the world in the time she was here before that all happened, it was amazing. But it's like one of those things where we as each minority group are basically kind of just waiting around for them to figure out what we want to watch without
yeah.
even listening to us about what we want to watch. Like, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like, we're
Yeah,
telling them what we want to see. And then they're like, you guys are going to watch that. We're like, no, we're trying to tell
no,
you, we're going to watch it.
exactly.
Just make it.
Yeah,
It's a very odd situation. And
yeah,
I don't, I have a hard time with it because I don't quite understand where the disconnect is happening,
yeah.
because it's one of those things where like if you see Black Panther, you see Selena, you see like all of these other things, and then like people go wild about it, and they're like, yeah, I definitely want to watch this, and then you make a shit ton of money off of it, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden
It just stops.
there's a void afterwards,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, why didn't you just think to make more? Like,
Meanwhile,
what?
they'll do like not another teen movie and scary movie and
Yeah.
all these other movies back to back to back to back.
And then they'll complain that no one's going to watch the movie, and I'm like,
Yeah,
because you're making things nobody wanted to see.
exactly.
It's like, so what? So that's not our fault. That's
No.
your fault for picking the wrong scripts.
Yep.
And that was the thing I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if it's not that the scripts aren't being made, if it's that the scripts aren't being picked, and if that's what it
I
is,
think that's what
then
it is.
that's just the problem at producing houses.
Yeah.
Like, that's just their own fault. Um,
Yeah.
because
What's
I imagine like even A24, all the horror movie scripts that they get,
yeah.
someone must have been getting all of those scripts before they even got them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden they made all of these incredible horror movies, and it's
Yes.
like it makes you sit back and wonder, and you'll
Those
hear from
movies
the
would never
directors
have been made.
never, and you hear from those
Never.
directors like, oh, I got rejected from here, 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 and you're like, how?
Yeah.
How are you getting rejected? Who is
Yeah.
rejecting you? Fire them, please.
Yeah.
Fire these people.
A24, and what I loved about what Blumhouse did was they took a chance on Jordan Peele. Said,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, we're gonna trust you. You're a comedian, but if you have a horror idea, let me tell you about my thing with Jordan Peele and Key and Peele.
Mm.
I wasn't a fan of theirs 10 years ago. Like when I came
Yeah,
up to New York, they were a
I
big
didn't
thing.
really watch their show. I
And I
didn't really
thought they
watch it because
were
I was salty about Chappelle's show being done.
me
I
too.
can.
I was a
I was
hater. Like
salty. I was such a hater.
I was a super hater because I
Same.
was a Chappelle guy through and through. And I remember I listened to Killing Him Softly, the Chappelle, the specials. I was all
Mm-hmm.
about Chappelle. Then these two imposters came in, and I wouldn't give them the time of day. And people would like,
Me neither. I
they
was
would like
pissed.
say, "Oh, they're so hilarious." And then even like when remember Barack had the correspondence speech or the correspondence dinner, and what's his name, Key would do the little alter ego of like the mean, I forgot
Yeah,
what's his name, it was the character, and I was
I
like,
don't
that's
remember.
stupid, you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm gonna be a hater. I saw Get Out, and I was like, wow, this is good. Like I'm a
Yeah.
horror guy. I'm gonna watch horror, and I want to give this guy. And I heard Jordan Peele on the Blumhouse podcast, the Shockwaves, before that
Mm,
came out, and I'm like, this guy isn't he the comedy guy who took over Chappelle's slot, and I was a hater then. And I listened to that
mm,
episode of that podcast, and I was like, you know what, I need to give this guy a chance. So I Get Out. Then I said, you know what? Let me put my hate aside and give Key and Peele a chance because they started popping up on
mm.
YouTube, all those sketches, unedited. And
Yes.
I was blown away. If you see any success in Jordan Peele's horror movies, you can see all those nuances in his sketches. There's some
Mm,
dark stuff, and he knows his horror. There's
mm,
so many sketches in there that are just so steeped in horror, and they're still funny, but they're creepy. Even
mm.
like the guy with the continental breakfast, like he had the continental. It's the free breakfast, and at the end, it
Yeah.
has like the whole end of The Shining where he's in the picture. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then he
Yes.
gets the free, like he gets moved up to business class in another sketch, and then they had they're thinking about Gremlins, I think, and like they're
Yeah.
pitching Gremlins, and they're breaking it down like he knows his horror. And when I saw Us, I was just blown away by that too. The
Oh,
Us was
same.
more of a longer Twilight Zone episode, but when
Yes.
I found out he was doing Twilight Zone, I'm like, that fits in perfect for him.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
He knows what he's doing, man.
he's rebooting
He's
my
brilliant.
probably one of my top three favorites, Candyman. And I was
Yes.
I was so bummed that that's pushed to next year. But
They
that's
should have just VOD'd it, man. Honestly,
oh
they really
man,
should have. I really
I
want
would
to
have
watch
paid
that movie.
$30 for it.
Oh, I would have paid. I would have
But
watched
I
it.
own Candyman, like it's one of my favorite movies
Oh,
ever.
it's a
I
great
watch it
movie.
a couple times a year. I love it.
Good old Tony Todd.
Oh, I know. And the thing
Creepiest
is, it's
black
like
man in the history of movies.
exactly, and he's got that voice.
Yes.
And the rumors he's going to be in Candyman, the remake,
Mm,
and that's the thing. I want to see
mm.
to what capacity. If is it a cameo? Is it like in Doctor Sleep? You remember? Did you watch Doctor Sleep?
Oh, Doctor Sleep was so good. I watched it
So
during quarantine,
me
and
too.
man, did I love that
It
movie.
was brilliant, and
I
I was
was so
looking at the
surprised how good it was.
IMDb, and did you
Mm,
see like the kid who played Danny Torrance was in the movie? And I'm like,
yeah.
where? And it was like he was the guy at the baseball field. You know how the kid, they're having the baseball game, the little league game, and the guy, there's
Yeah.
adults in the stands. That was the old Danny Torrance. They
Oh my
managed to
God, I
bring
didn't know
him
that.
back for that. Isn't that so
Wow.
freaking cool? Like
That's awesome.
that's another director to keep an eye on is Mike Flanagan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yes.
man,
Doesn't he have something else
Bly Manor.
on the
He has the
That's
haunting
what it is.
Bly Manor.
That that was
Yeah,
good too. I like Blind
man,
Manor. That was really, really good.
he crushes
He's
it.
great. He
Yeah,
really does crush it. Yeah, man, it's one of those because I was one of those people at the beginning too, where I was like Jordan Peele and Key, and I was just like, it was too soon for me. It's like one of those too
Yeah.
soon jokes. You're like,
Yeah.
so like I didn't watch a lot of the sketches, but then when I was on tour with Hamilton, a lot of my castmates loved Key and Peele, so like they
Man,
started to show them to me,
I'm a
and I
fan
was
now.
just like, oh, this is hilarious.
Yes.
I was like, oh man, and it's funny because even Dave Chappelle jokes about it. He's like, man, they doing all that shit I used to do.
Yeah.
Like he knows too,
Yeah.
but he's not like even mad about it. He just, it's kind of a cool thing because he created this kind of thing that's also launched other people. Um,
He paved the
which is
way for them.
he did, and
Really did.
yeah, Get Out, for goodness sakes, that movie.
Brilliant.
I what an experience of a
Yeah.
movie that is, and not only that, like just to 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 see someone actually truly capture, like capture the inherent fear that black people have of white people,
Yeah.
like to truly really capture it in a horror movie that was also funny and topical and like subtle and like all of these things. It was so revolutionary, and also like a kind of movie that you're like, no one else could have made this.
Yeah.
Like no one could have
Yeah.
made this movie but you.
Yep.
um that and Us. It's just like every single one of his movies, or every single one of his. That's why I was excited for Candyman, because he's not even the director; he's producing it.
Producing it.
And I'm hoping that, I was always hoping that if he started to produce that those, his influence would be good enough that those movies themselves would also
Yeah.
be still be good, because what happens sometimes with, like, Michael Bay will produce a movie but it won't be
It
as
won't be
good as
good.
his movies
Yeah.
are, and that kind of thing. So like, but Candyman, the trailer alone
Oh,
gave you this feeling of like, oh, this is gonna work. Like
and you see it like,
this is creepy.
and how it's aged, how Chicago is a different city. How Cabrini Green isn't Cabrini Green. It's
Yeah.
gentrified so crazy now. It's so
Ugh.
safe now. When I did Chicago PD, I drove past there, and
Yeah.
I was just blown away. And the guy's like, "Yeah, you can walk around here now. It's so safe. It's so crazy."
Yeah, I never saw old Chicago really. I've only seen new Chicago really.
Oh man, like I was there for 10 days, so I shot for 4.
Mm.
So it's like a lot of
Hmm.
time off to explore. And I love Chicagoland, man. One of my favorite shows that I ever did.
Mm.
Is there a particular thing, as actors, like for me, I want to play Wolverine. That's like a dream role,
Mm.
or Odysseus in the Odyssey. I would love to play it.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that would be
And
so cool.
obviously Hugh Jackman played Wolverine, and then I heard he's supposed to play Odysseus too. So he's taking all my dream jobs. But is there something you've always wanted to play? Is there something that you would love to play, or is there something you just feel you haven't aged
Uh,
into yet? Or like for me, like I would love to play Big Daddy and Cat in a Hot Tin Roof.
uh, I. You know what's kind of funny about my even my career trajectory? The only thing that I've not played that I want to play
Yeah,
is the Bus and Carolina Change. It's such an and that musical was actually one of the musicals that was revived for this year, that
yeah,
was going to open, and then we didn't get a chance to see it at all. I was so excited to go watch it because I've never actually seen a production of it. I've just
yeah,
listened to the album over and over again. Um, but I don't particularly have um, many older things that have already existed that I want to play, that I actually can play actually,
yeah,
at this moment.
yeah.
I've played a lot of the things, or a bit at least been in the shows that I've wanted to. That like I was in Les Mis as Enjolras,
Oh
but
man,
I have
one
always
of the
wanted to
most
play Javert. Like
powerful
like
scenes I've ever seen in the Tony Awards was, you had what was the guy playing Jean Valjean at the time?
oh, Ramin
Ramin.
Townley.
Yes, he would work out at the
Hmm.
Equinox I worked out. So he comes out, he's
Yeah.
great. And
Yep.
he's great. And then all of a sudden you pop out and I'm like, whoa, this guy is like, I'm telling you, I was moved. What year was that? They came out that on the Tonys,
Oh, that would be
2015,
2000 and yeah, it was 2014 Tonys.
14.
Yeah, yeah,
Man,
yeah.
if y'all are watching, Google that or YouTube that performance. Kyle just crushes it. And it's one of the most powerful things was to see you on that poster in Broadway and all over New
Oh,
York.
I still have it hanging.
That's
I
one
still
of the
have it. I have it
coolest
hung up
things.
in our house.
That is so
Yeah,
amazing.
I have it hung in the apartment. It's really like that whole year was one of the wildest years of my entire theater career. It's
Yeah.
my first time being on Broadway. I'm a principal in Les Mis, playing a part normally played by a white blonde man.
Yeah.
Like it was so kind of a whirlwind, and then all of a sudden, like you vocal injuries to being on the poster to like just
Dude.
everything. It was such a crazy year. And then having like a tonsillectomy
Yeah.
during the year. Uh, it was a wild year. And those Tonys are really people bring those Tony Awards up to me a lot. Because I even when I was in the middle of doing it, I didn't realize the impact it was going to have. Um, it is kind of an odd thing when you're in the middle of doing something and you're so focused on like doing it right or not messing up, or you're just anxious kind of about it, that you don't really put two and two together of
Yeah.
what it's actually doing. Um, I had people not emailing me, but sending me messages on Facebook Messenger, just talking about the fact that they knew that they could do something they couldn't do before.
Yeah.
Which you don't really like. I didn't really think about that too much because I just wanted to portray the character as well as I could under the
Mhm.
circumstances, and I was so focused on that sometimes the other stuff I spoke to when people brought it up to me, or if
Yeah.
someone would ask like, "Oh, is this even possible?" And then I, of course, would give them full examples of how it was possible
Yeah.
because I did my research.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was one of those things where uh, I I guess in my whole career, what I'm hoping is that at some point I actually realize my own impact because I don't tend to. I
I
don't
think you
tend
have
to
had a
do
huge
it.
impact. I
Yeah, and I
think,
don't tend to really take it in. I don't tend to
yeah.
take it in. I tend to always have this next foot forward kind of thought process about everything,
Yeah.
where I'm aiming so high up there that sometimes I don't take the chance to stop and go like, man, I climbed that hill that was really hard to get over.
Yeah.
I just kind of still staring at the top of the mountain, going like, I can't wait to get up there.
Yeah.
Which is such an odd thing to happen. But then you have times even like this quarantine where I was talking to my castmate from Color Purple the other day, and my castmate Bree, and she literally like was like, "Yo, we did that shit," and
Yeah.
I was like, "You know what? We did." Like,
Yeah.
and I don't really ever like think that deeply about it because I'm always worried about what the next thing is. But like now when I stop and think about all of that stuff, I'm really proud of it more so now than I was then, or even like last year or 6 months ago. Now when I think about it, it like tears me up because I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
we really did. I've done a lot of crazy shit.
Dude,
And
yes. I mean, you worked with amazing people, but
yeah.
um being on the Broadway stage as a black man is a
Mm,
huge move in and of itself. And the fact
yeah.
that you were the focal point of that post of Philly Miz, like think
Mm,
about how many thousands of people walked past that, how many young men, women,
yeah.
kids of color see that. They saw you and they said, you know what? This was a thing walking through these streets that might have not have been possible, but I see that he did it. And there is hope for
Yeah.
me. And the fact that they brought in the Color Purple, and you had Cynthia Erivo and Jennifer
Oh
Hudson,
yes.
and then you
Yes.
on there, and it's just like
And Danielle and
Danielle. It's like it's so crazy to see that happen. And what's crazy about
yeah.
that, at the Color Purple, I met Jeremy Pope.
Oh yes, yes.
I met him there. He was taking photos. He was just there hanging out
Yo,
before
you
he
know
was
the thing?
nominated for like 2 Tonys for 2 separate shows.
Yo,
I'm like, this
same
kid
thing though.
is crushing it.
The thing about Jeremy that I always find to be so funny because I I didn't know Jeremy so much. Like I met him the first time when we were doing that show. He was very good friends with Danielle Brooks
Yeah.
and other people in the show. So like it was the first time I met Jeremy. So like I didn't know Jeremy was an actor.
Yeah.
He never mentioned it, but and I just knew mostly about he took such great photography. He was such a
That's
wonderful
what I thought. He was a
photographer.
photographer because he was
And
taking
that's what I
pictures
thought
that
when I
night.
met him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what I thought. And then all of a sudden, like a year went by, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, look at that! Jeremy's in a play." And I was like, "Wait, you act?" And I was
Yeah.
like I had no idea. And then all of a sudden, he's in Choir Boy, and then he's in Ain't Too Proud, and like he's just
Yeah.
going off. And then he's
Hollywood.
on Hollywood, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Holy shit!" I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa!" But it was always one of those things where like when you met him,
Yeah.
he always did have the aesthetic and aura. Like he
Yeah.
had that, but he didn't seem to be the kind of actor that if he wasn't acting, he didn't. It wasn't like he didn't bring it up. He just never
Yeah.
brought it up.
He was, yeah,
So and then
natural.
so
Yeah.
it's just natural, man.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. So it is one of those kind of wild things.
Yeah.
Those are fun moments. That was a
Yeah.
fun moment
It's
when I started to see
crazy.
him take off. It was like, wow.
Exactly. And I mean, another person we worked with, I mean, I produced a web series you were in that our friend
Oh yes,
Ian Sample wrote. And
yes.
one of the actors in there, Tommy Dorfman, like
Oh,
from
Tommy.
1 week to the next,
Yes.
he's in a whole nother level. Like maybe if I would have asked him to do the podcast then, maybe I get a chance. Now I have to probably go through a team of lawyers and publicists. Like I remember when Tommy was he just like the was it 13 Reasons Why dropped that week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was already out for 1 week, and I remember it was a Friday evening, and his Instagram, like before, it might have been like at $7,000 before
Mm-hmm.
13 Reasons Why. The moment he posts that one picture of him and Selena Gomez with the tattoos, they got their tattoos
Mm-hmm.
together. I saw it go from like 7,000 to 100,000.
Yep, he's
I
over a
was just
million now.
watching. Yeah, I'm like, wow. And he's hanging out with Cindy
Yeah.
Crawford's daughter, and Cindy Crawford is commenting. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's so crazy how this happens.
Tommy is interesting because I remember when we did that scene where he bullies us. We're on the
Oh
we
man.
were on the West Side Highway on the park area over there,
Yeah.
and it was the first time it was the first time we ever met Tommy, and so he was so good.
Yeah.
Like he was such a bully. Like he was supposed to be bullying us like some Wall Street
Yeah.
exec. Like
Yuppie. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so full 100%, like make you feel crap about yourself.
Yeah.
I was so impressed when I
Yeah.
first met him. I was just like, oh man.
It's like,
I
wait a
was like, and it
minute,
was,
man. Is this
I was
like,
like,
are
wait,
you acting right now, or are you really feeling
you trying to
things?
piss me off? But it was like that was the thing, that those are the kind of actors you meet and you're like, oh, you got this. Like, because it's like he knows
Yeah.
we're all just playing together. He does his homework and he does his work, and
Yep.
he comes and he gives you 100%,
Yeah.
100%. I honestly will never forget doing that scene on that area with him, just
Yeah.
because of how brazen he was able to make himself as this Wall Street exec, and also even how and of course this goes for any man that is in the industry and is gay, that easily played a straight man and killed it.
Yes.
Like killed it.
Yes.
Like and that's the kind of thing that I it's just like, wow, you're fucking good. Like yeah,
Yes.
like just like wow. Like because when you see him and when you meet him, you're like you're when you meet him, you're like you're of, I don't know what he actually what he if
He's an energy.
gay or binary or
Yeah.
whatever I don't know how he represents
It's a
himself,
beautiful energy.
but it's a beautiful
Yeah.
energy, man. He kills it, man. He is so awesome.
Yeah.
And also really he's from Georgia, so really also politically active
Yeah.
and trying to be helpful for that too. So it's he's everything he has, he deserves it without
Yeah.
like 100%. He's phenomenal.
The one thing I
Yeah.
want to know is how he became such good friends with the Riverdale cast if he was never in Riverdale. Like he knows
I
all
don't
of them.
know.
And I'm like, how did that work out? You're in 13 Reasons Why, not Riverdale.
Well, I think what ends up happening is like, everyone in 13 Reasons Why they're all of a certain kind of early 20s age, and I imagine everybody in
in
Riverdale, or they probably meet at
in
parties.
LA.
Like I have had the opportunity to go to like a couple of openings of things. Like I went to God, I went to one movie opening for like a Nicole Kidman movie that was sent to my manager, and they're like, they want you to go. And it was when I was in Color Purple, and I was like, oh, cool. Like I was getting invited to go to things just to watch
Yeah.
openings, which is cool. I went to two things. I went to that, and I also went to there was a show that was on AMC that had David Schwimmer.
Yeah.
It's since got canceled after the first season,
Yes,
but
yes,
I
I know
went
what
to
you're talking about.
the New York opening of that as well, and I met like a whole bunch of people I would never usually meet,
Yeah.
friends I have now that I'm like I never would have had you as friends,
Yeah.
and I think that's just basically what happens. Like he probably got either he met them at a party, or it was an opening of something, and then they all became friends,
And they
and I
schmoozed and became
and they
pals.
smooth, and it was the wildest thing is like the so much of our industry takes place at those things.
Those events.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Those
Yeah.
events,
How's
and
that
it's
going to happen now with COVID?
exactly,
You know, how am
exactly.
I going to schmooze? How am I going to meet Riverdale people?
I got one invitation to go watch something like Drive Through, which I it was like the night before, and I was like, guys, I'm good. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go. It's okay. Like but
No.
it's one of those things where it's one of those things where it's kind of like we basically have to now hopefully try to network by working at this point
Yeah.
until all of this is over, of course.
Yeah. That's what
But
we're doing with this podcast is just keeping in touch with everybody that I
yeah,
have come across in my life, my friends, people like you. We were supposed to remember, like for everyone watching and listening, Kyle and his fiance Savannah were supposed to get married in Pennsylvania
yeah,
in August. We were supposed to go over
yeah.
there.
They're supposed to be here.
We were supposed to. My wife was going to be in the
Oh,
wedding party too, and it's like
mm-hmm.
that. That was not fun.
Just fell through.
I was
Nope.
looking forward to that trip. You know
hmm
what I mean? And
Hopefully that trip will be made next year. Like,
yeah,
they
Rosa was
like
telling me
we moved it to August, and now we're hoping that by August. I mean, I imagine by
it
August
should be fine by then.
we should be like with the vaccine really hits
Yeah,
early next year, and
yeah,
like yeah, I think by then we should be able to have the full thing because that was the only reason we moved it. We
yeah.
really wanted to be able to have people there.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so here's hoping. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, man.
Oh man, yeah.
That'll
In
be
a little
great.
bit, once we're done here, Rosa and the baby want to say hello.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I guess we're gonna wrap it up now.
Okay.
Kyle, can we find you on Instagram or anywhere, Twitter?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. My you can type in my name. It's Kyle Scatliffe,
Perfect.
spelled just like kind of like Daniel Radcliffe's last name. It's British.
Yeah.
I myself am British Virgin Islander. I'm not like British, but I am technically a dual citizen in some ways, so that's cool. I have to get my dual citizenship, but I am technically my parents are both were both British Virgin Islanders. The Instagram name you can type my name in, or it's Sir Black a lot, which
Sir
is the
Black a
actual
lot.
name,
Yeah.
which is a joke, a good old fun joke. Actually, should I just tell them what the joke is?
Go for it.
Okay, so when I was about 15, 16 years old, I would go over my friend Greg's house and we would play Halo. And a lot of us, Greg's brother was named Steve. And then Greg had his brother had a friend also named Steve, but so we couldn't just call them both Steve.
Yeah.
So his last name was Strojan, like Trojan, but with an S in front of it. So we just called him Strojan all the time.
Yeah.
So he thought it up actually. We were all sitting there. It was the first time I was playing Halo, and we're trying to figure out a name I could use. And I'm terrible at thinking of things like that. Like, what's your name for this game? Awful at it. So he literally goes, "Wait, how about Sir Black a lot?" And I was like, "What?" And because in my head I'm going, "What is that supposed to mean?" He
Yeah.
goes, "Well." He goes, "Well, you're part British, so the Sir, right?" And then the Black a lot was like a joke of he's of the fact that it would would be the kind of an opposite joke where you say black a lot, but if you were to go stereotypical in life,
Yeah.
I was so unstereotypical, and because I listened to metal and like all
Yes.
this stuff. So he was like, he's like, it could be a funny name, and I said, you know what, I like that, and I even
You
told him,
stayed
I
with
said,
it.
I'll probably use that for the rest of my life, and I did.
I, it's
I even named
probably
my company. I even named my company after it too.
that's awesome. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
it's better than my old Twitter handle. I had gotten rid of social media for 3 months last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't, like, usually you could just freeze it and then come back. Well, apparently that didn't happen with Twitter, and I lost it. And my old Twitter
Oh.
handle was beefy27. And that was you remember the Chef Boyardee commercials with
Yeah.
with mankind?
Beefy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beefy. Yeah.
Beefy.
That was my yeah. I think that's a good like professional handle. I think that would have I
It makes
think
people laugh.
CIA and WME would have been knocking down my doors had they had seen that.
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much for joining me and talking with me. It's always it's a great time always talking to you. And I really one of the things I regret most was being up there, having the screening room I had at my old apartment building, and we
Mm.
never had horror movie nights
Yeah, man. We talked about it. We never got it done. That's
because
partially my fault too,
you ended
though.
up going on tour and leaving us.
Yeah.
You left us, and
I
then
was gone
so
for so long.
yeah, dude, you would have loved it. We had like it was like a
Uh,
little mini theater in like part of the amenities in the building.
mm.
So we should have had horror movie, but I remember I told you about The Witch, and you got The Witch and you loved it.
Oh,
So
oh,
I'm
I
really
sure still
happy.
have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, oh, dude, so do I.
So
And
good.
did you ever watch Autopsy of Jane Doe?
Oh
One of
yes.
my favorites. Okay,
I love that. I'd been waiting
good.
to see that movie for a while, and then it popped up
Yes,
on Netflix, and I was like, finally,
one of my favorites.
loved it, loved
It
it.
needs more love. That's why I always bring it
What
up.
a
Is
creepy movie.
yes, and
Oh my
if you've been
god.
reading, this is before we leave, because I have to drop stuff that flies under the radar that I think needs love. If you like slasher sort of like mayhem, you need to read a book called Fantastic Land, and it's written by
Fantastic Land.
Mike
All right.
Bachoven. And the premise of the story is there's a hurricane hitting right outside of Orlando. So Fantastic Land is kind of like the straight competitor to Disney, but it was
Mm-hmm.
placed in a horrible area that was prone to hurricane hits. So
Oh jeez.
the owners of this poorly run theme park decide we're going to have a skeleton crew stay in the park during this hurricane to make sure there's no looting or anything. Well, it turns into a of Lord of the Flies kind of like times 1,000%. People like they form gangs in the different like areas of the park, like the
Oh wow.
fairyland, the prairie fairyland, the pirates. They end up like killing people left and right, and it's just like, and it's told in kind of like a documentary, kind of like World War Z was told.
Oh my god.
So each viewpoint, like it's almost like you're being questioned by like it was like a documentary, like this is what happened, and then this person will tell their story, and then it'll pick up from where this person's story ended up, and it's like a different viewpoint. It's a brilliant, and I'm trying to get the author Mike Bachoven on the podcast to talk about it. And like I said, when you talk about
Nice.
like the gray areas of thing, like this is one of the things, like you think about hurricanes, but you don't think about the craziness that ensues in hurricanes. And I want to like know that how that even came to be, but you would get a kick because it goes from they talk about the owners, and then like the workers are talking about how shitty the owners run the park, and then like it goes from like how this one character, this guy, he ends up going a little crazy. You could tell he was a little crazy, and this is what sets off the chain of events, and it's nuts.
That sounds like it'd be a great mini series too.
Oh
Just like a
man, and
really
and
that
I
sounds
think they've been
awesome.
trying to develop it, and I really hope it goes through because it would be brilliant, brilliant.
Oh
So
man.
check out that book. Like, I
All right,
really,
I'll
it's
check
a
that
good,
out.
good read. Thank you everybody for watching. As always, you can find me at on Instagram at Jorge's Isolation Podcast, and on the YouTube channel if you want to watch the video version of this at Jorge Chapa is the channel. You'll see my pretty face on there, and you can see both our pretty faces for almost 2 hours of beautiful conversation and a lot of fun. So everybody, go ahead and hit subscribe. follow me on Instagram, and tell your friends. I'm on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher. I'm on all of that. Leave a nice review, and thank you for watching and listening. And I hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time. Thank you, Kyle. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.